The hearth in the great hall of Winterfell blazed with the restless hunger of late summer's chill. Spitting sparks that danced like fireflies before the blackened stones. Lord Eddard Stark stood in the half-lit doorway, his gray eyes absorbing the familiar contours of carved deer wolves and smoked rafters. He heard every creak of greenwood settling after the day's heat, every distant footfall of servants preparing for the oncoming night. The hall breathed with the steady rhythm of a living beast, its pulse resonating through Ned's chest in a way that King's Landing never could. Outside, dusk gathered over the battlements, staining the sky in bruised purples and iron blues. A lone horn sounded from atop the eastern rampart. One long note, the signal for a rider departing through the gate. The echoes faded slowly across the yard. Ned closed his eyes and listened until the hush returned, broken only by a raven's coarse croak from the rookery tower. Robert Baratheon was gone. Not an hour past had the king mounted his massive black stallion Vayne, with a grunt of resignation so deep it seemed to rattle the courtyard banners. He had lingered beside Ned's shoulder, waiting for his oldest friend to change his mind. But Ned had not stepped forward. There had been no sudden outburst, no heroic last-minute capitulation, only a soft, steady silence that weighed heavier than any chain. At last Robert had nodded, reluctant might tempered by the knowledge that a man's hearth is sometimes a stronger shackle than duty's call. Without escort save for Sir Barristan Selmy, a handful of personal guards, and the royal train of servants, the King of the Seven Kingdoms had ridden south alone, leaving Winterfell quieter than Ned could ever recall. Catelyn's gentle approach stirred him. Her hand settled upon his forearm, slender fingers firm with silent reassurance. He turned to her, seeing the flicker of torchlight ripple across her auburn hair. In her eyes rested neither judgment nor triumph, but the shared acceptance of a path chosen together. "Hell forgive you," she murmured, voice a feather across the thunder of the flames. "Robert," Ned exhaled, a rueful curl of his mouth. Forgiveness has never been his gift, but that is less weighty than what might become of him without a hand he trusts. "He has his counsel," she offered, though both of them knew the small council was a nest of whispering vipers. "And Sir Barristan's arm is true. True steel cannot parry treachery." Ned's gaze drifted to the fire. King's Landing is full of bright smiles and shadowed daggers. "Jon Arryn." He stopped, feeling the old ache pulse anew. Jon had walked that gilded path alone too, and it had led not to glory but to a cold stone slab in the Sept of Baelor. Catelyn's grip tightened. "You will not abandon him entirely. A raven can bear counsel as swiftly as a horse bears a man. Robert will value your words even from afar." Ned considered this, but the uneasy tremor in his chest did not settle. He feared that words, no matter how swiftly winged, could not match the conspiracies already winding themselves about the Iron Throne. Yet he had chosen, and the die was cast. Footsteps approached over the flagstones, soft but certain. Maester Luwin emerged from the gloom at the hall's far end, his chain of bronze, iron, and Valyrian steel links glinting. "My lord, the ravens are fed and ready. Should we expect royal messages, or dispatch your own straightaway?" Ned turned from the hearth. "Send word to Lord Royce at the Eyrie first. If trouble stir in the capital, I would have eyes as loyal as my own in Jon Arryn's old seat." Maester Luwin bowed. "At once, my lord." He hesitated. "And the king's party?" "Shall we?" "Let them ride unhindered," Ned said. "They know the roads. They will summon us if need arises." Formalities completed, the maester slipped away into the corridor shadows. Only then did the oppressive stillness of the hall seep into Ned's bones. Robert's laughter was no longer rolling off the walls, his bawdy jests no longer echoing beneath the vaulted ceiling. The king's presence, so vibrant under the northern roofs, had vanished like breath on glass. Winterfell seemed to sigh, relieved yet plaintive, as though the ancient stones missed the southern storm that had briefly roused them. Catelyn tugged Ned toward the side door. "Come," she said. "The children will wonder." In the Godswood they found Sansa seated by the pool, red leaves drifting down about her head like a silent rain of blood-colored confetti. Septim Ordained stood watchfully nearby, lips pressed tight. Sansa dabbed at her cheeks, though whether the damp was from tears or evening dew one could not say. She looked up as her parents approached. "Is it true?" she asked. "The king left without father?" Ned knelt on the moss, its dampness seeping through his breeches. "A little bird. His grace must return to his throne. Duties call us each in turn." "And see. But what of my betrothal?" Sansa's voice trembled. "Princess Myrcella said the prince would be my husband." Ned's heart clenched. The delicate tapestry of southern alliances frayed a thread at a time. If Prince Joffrey wishes to wed, he will send proper suit in time. He gathered her hand between his palms, feeling how slender her fingers were, as breakable as quills. "But even betrothals may wait until both hearts are certain. I will not give my daughter to a stranger's household, without knowing she shall be cherished." "Dan?" Sansa bit her lip, gaze dropping to the mirrored surface of the pool where the weirwood's pallid reflection rippled. "Princesses in stories never wait," she whispered. "They marry brave princes and ride south to courts of marvels. Stories are made smooth for ears," Ned replied gently. "Life is rough-hewn. Let songs promise you marvels, let me promise you safety." Sansa nodded, though her eyes remained troubled, dreams doused but not extinguished. When they left the Godswood, Bran skittered down from the first landing of the broken tower. Cheeks flushed, hair wind-tossed. Arya chased him, needle-thin braids streaming behind like banner tails. "Father!" Bran shouted. "Uncle Benjen promised we'd start the crossbow tomorrow. But he's not here, will you?" Ned ruffled his son's head. "We'll see. Tomorrow is filled with its own mind, tonight, rest." Bran's shoulders sagged, yet hope lingered in his grin. Arya, half hidden behind a pillar, studied her father's face with the cautious intensity of a wolf pup discerning scent. She sensed changes before words named them, and her gray eyes, so like Ned's own, flicked southward, as if she could see beyond stone and forest to the far-off intrigues that had been kept from her hearing. Jon Snow appeared last, quiet as the coiling mist curling up from the hot springs. Standing at the base of the stairs, he did not intrude upon the family knot. His black hair caught the torchlight, silvering around the edges. Their eyes met. There was understanding in the boy's gaze, that the storm brewing in the south would no longer drag them along, that he would remain at Winterfell, underfooted, yet still half a son. A wistful relief breathed between them. Even bastards lived closer to hearth and kin when the world ceased calling their fathers away. Late that night, after the castle had quieted, Ned sat alone in his solar. The chamber smelled of old parchment, wolf fur, and the crisp tang of pine from the highland drafts slipping through cracks. Lantern light washed over the carved map of the north mounted upon his oak tabletop, each holdfast etched in painstaking detail. His fingers traced the ridges representing the flint cliffs, then the long path of the King's Road vanishing beyond Moat Cailin toward lands he had refused. In the corner, beneath a narrow window, rested a small chest bound in iron. Within lay the king's letter of appointment, naming Eddard Starkhand of the king in elegant red wax, broken only by a hairline crack where Ned's thumb had pressed. He had not burned it, nor had he sealed it away from sight. Instead, it remained where he could see it each evening, a silent question he must answer anew with every dawn. An owl hooted from the bell tower. Almost instantly, another call answered from the distant wolfswood. Night creatures spoke in tongues older than history, their conversations oblivious to crowns and courts. Ned had envied them. They served no masters but hunger and the turning seasons. He poured himself a cup of summer wine from Highgarden, the last of the cask Robert had brought as a gift to the household. Its sweet fragrance carried notes of peach and violet. He drank sparingly. Memory tasted sharper than the drink itself. The war had bound them as young men, two chosen blades at the center of rebellion's forge. He had followed Robert then, march after bloody march, through storms of mud and snow. But now the stakes were not freedoms to be won, but lives to be preserved. Perhaps age-tempered courage, perhaps fatherhood weighed heavier than steel. A soft rap at the door drew him back. Before he could answer, the door eased open, and Robb entered, tall and lean, his red-brown hair tousled from sleep. "I saw the torches," Robb began, closing the oak quietly behind him. "Couldn't rest." Ned gestured to the chair opposite the desk. Robb sat, posture still half-rigid with youthful restraint. Shadows clung to his cheekbones, making his gray eyes appear older than their 16 years. "Mother said the king begged you again," Robb said. It was not a question. The boy's hands clenched on his knees. Did his grace truly ride south with so few men? Ned sighed. Sir Barristan, Lord Renly, a dozen gold cloaks, and his honor guard. Enough to mark a king upon the road. Fewer than I would choose. No. Robb frowned. King's Landing will see weakness in light escort. The Lannisters. Think like a lord, not a wolf, Ned chided, though his tone was soft. Sometimes a show of strength lies in seeming unafraid. Robert believes his crown weighs enough to turn blades aside. And does it? Ned took another shallow sip. Crowns invite daggers as readily as they deflect them. He leaned forward, hands steepled. I kept you in council during the feast for a reason, Robb. What did you observe of Lord Tywin's cubs? Now. Robb's brow tightened, recalling each conversation with soldier's precision. Sir Jaime is courteous until wine loosens his tongue. Then every courtesy turns to mockery. Prince Tommen is harmless, Princess Myrcella polite, but the Queen... He hesitated. I found little warmth in her. She guards her young with lioness ferocity, Ned agreed. Especially the golden prince she calls son. He saw Robb's confusion. Joffrey had remained behind with his mother, too young for the hunt, she claimed. Remember her eyes at table? They tested every word. He tapped the leather chest. Had I accepted Robert's burden, Cersei would have measured the fit of my neck for a garrote before I set foot beyond the city gates. Robb swallowed. Then why did you not ride south to guard him? Because another duty stakes my heart more surely than friendship. I am warden of the north. If winter truly comes, and it will, this land needs my voice here, my sword here. Robert has bannermen in plenty, but the north has only one Ned Stark. The weight settled between them like an iron anvil. Robb nodded once, a solemn acknowledgement of inheritance. Ned watched pride intermingled with fear flicker across his son's face. The birth of responsibilities, gravity. Send ravens to the river lords, Robb offered, eager. Let them know we stand ready should trouble brew. We will, Ned promised. But steel your impatience. Ravens may soar swifter than men. Yet news grows no slower for our waiting. Robb stood, prepared to take his leave, then paused at the door. I dreamt of a storm last night, he said quietly. It howled across the shivering sea, black waves swallowing cliffs. When I woke, the keep was trembling. Then? Ned pursed his lips. Storms pound the mind hardest before they break in truth. He set his cup aside. Rest. We face tomorrow with clear eyes. Robb left wordlessly, the latch clicking shut. Ned remained a while longer, listening for the sound of the crossing gale that his son's dream foretold. None came. Yet the silence felt like the breathless moment between lightning's flash and thunder's roar. Across nearly 1,000 leagues, King Robert Baratheon reached the mouth of the neck, as dusk painted the horizon blood red. Marshy smells rose from the fens, mixing with horse sweat and steel oil. Sir Barristan rode at his right, his white cloak dimmed by travel dust. Hawks circled overhead, drawn by the scent of rabbits scuttling through threads. We ought to camp at Greywater Watch, Robert muttered, squinting over the flatlands. Bog devils thrive here, incanting fellows, but they keep a man's feet dry when the fen wants his boots. He shifted in his saddle, belly straining against leather that had not been tightened since leaving Winterfell. There's no guarantee Lord Reed remains at home, Sir Barristan cautioned. The Crannogmen wander as the wind wills. Robert snorted. All the more reason. Howland was Ned's friend, and thus mine. Yet a note of bitterness edged the king's voice. He had not spoken openly of Ned's refusal since the gates had closed behind them, but the silence between man and Kingsguard was thick with unvoiced frustration. They pressed on through hummocks of sodden ground until moonrise cast a ghostly sheen upon the waters. Laughter erupted from the royal train ahead as Renly Baratheon regaled squires with some jest too ribald for courtiers. The easy cadence of it only sharpened Robert's melancholy. He drank deeply from a skin of sour ale, wiped his mouth with the back of a meaty hand, and stared southward at the ribbon of road vanishing into reeds. When they made camp, Robert strode to the edge of a stagnant pool, frogs croaking like drunken minstrels in the thick reeds. He hurled a stone, sending ripples across the mirror surface until the moon fractured into shards of silver. 7 hells, he muttered. Ned should be here. Sir Barristan's white hair fluttered softly in the night breeze. Lord Stark's duty binds him north, your grace. A virtue we admire. Robert spat. Virtue and chains look alike. He turned, face redder than the dying embers. We will reach King's Landing in a fortnight, Selmy. And when we do, I'll have a chair for you in the small council as well. Gods know I'll need men I trust. Sir Barristan inclined his head. It will be my honor. Robert clapped him on the shoulder, then staggered back, suddenly weary. The frogs kept croaking, their hidden voices an eerie chorus in the marshland gloom. Back in Winterfell, dawn found Ned Stark on the ramparts overlooking the practice yard. He watched Jon and Robb circle each other with blunted longswords, sweat already purling beneath their collars despite the chill. Sir Roderick Castle shouted instructions, his white whiskers dancing with each barked command. Bran perched atop a barrel, leaning forward with eager eyes, mimicking sword strokes with a stick. Ned felt the moment stretch. Children laughing. Steel on steel, the call of crows overhead. Such simple life, fragile and precious. Yet the world beyond these walls was anything but simple. He turned his gaze northward to where the wall would glitter like a pale ribbon under sunlit skies. If winter's first winds stirred there, he would know soon. A shrill cry pierced the air. A raven spiraled down toward the rookery, its black wings a smear against the pearly sky. Ned tracked its descent with wary eyes. Ravens carried more than words. They bore the weight of distant hearts beating, sometimes faltering. By midday, Maester Luwin delivered the message. It came not from King's Landing but from White Harbor, sealed with the merman sigil of House Manderley. Winterfell's yard stilled as word spread a raven had arrived. Ned retreated to his solar with the maester, broke the lavender wax, and read. His jaw tightened. He handed the parchment to Luwin. Lord Wyman warns of Lannister coin in the port markets, he said aloud. Tradesmen paid handsomely for whispering ill of the crown, sowing rumors of Robert's failing health, talk of a successor. Maester Luwin peered through narrow spectacles. Disturbing, my lord. The king's journey south may embolden such rumors. Or was time to dovetail with them, Ned added grimly. I had hoped we'd outrun intrigue so far north. It seems gold travels faster than men. He paced to the window. Across the yard, Robb wiped Jon's brow with a damp cloth, both boys laughing. The innocence of their sparring ring felt a world removed from the machinations at play. Yet he knew innocence is often the first casualty of ambition. Send my thanks to Lord Wyman, Ned said finally. And caution. Tell him to watch quietly for coin-bearing lions, but not to confront openly. We need knowledge, not bodies in the Mander secure. Then Barwin Tower. Luwin inclined his head. At once, my lord. Also, Ned continued, dispatch a bird to Stannis Baratheon at Dragonstone. Inform him discreetly of these whispers concerning succession. He tapped fingers on the painted map. Dai. Stannis is prickly, but loyalty beats in him like iron in a forge. He will not abide talk of usurping Robert while blood still fills his brother's veins. Something in Luwin's eyes flickered. Skepticism, perhaps, or concern for treading too boldly into southern quarrels. Yet he bowed and left without protest. When the door closed, Ned permitted his shoulders to sag. Already, the south shadows reached spidery tendrils beneath Winterfell's walls. He rubbed his temples, weary beyond measure. Catelyn entered moments later, having gleaned enough from servants' whispers to sense trouble. She read the note, eyes narrowing, then folded it neatly upon the desk. Will you ride south after all? She asked softly. Ned met her gaze. No. To chase rumor with sword leaves the north leaderless. I will answer whispers with ravens, and vigilance. He noticed how her clasped hands whitened at the knuckles. We must prepare for winter. Let the lions snarl in summer's heat. When cold comes, gold as well as steel grows brittle. Caitlin brushed her fingers along the windowsill, where dust motes spun in the late-day glow like flecks of sun-kissed snow. Your course is chosen, she said. Yet I fear even the wall cannot keep us from every southern tempest. Ned drew her close, pressing his brow against hers. Then we shall face the storm together, as we always have. She closed her eyes. For an instant, there was peace in the hush of the solar. Night settled over the Red Keep, like a velvet shroud by the time Robert's letter arrived. It rode upon a raven that had flown straight from the king's tent on the Reach border, bearing the royal seal cracked by haste. Cersei Lannister received it in her bedchamber, golden hair spilling across green silk pillows, eyes glittering in candlelight. She slit the wax with a finger sharp as a cat's claw and scanned the page. Her lips thinned. A single line at the end captured her attention. Ned Stark remains in Winterfell. He counsels by raven only. Cersei's gaze flickered to the door, behind which her brother's voices echoed. Jaime's easy drawl and Tyrion's sharper wit. The wine in her goblet tasted suddenly sour. She set it aside with a decisive clack. Ned Stark stays home, she murmured to herself. And the board shifts. She rose, emerald nightgown skimming the marble floor, and moved to the balcony overlooking the Blackwater rush. Moonlight gleamed on the water below, casting silver veins across its surface. Far off, ships' lanterns bobbed in the harbor, tiny fireflies against the dark. She inhaled deeply, mind weaving threads like a spider at dawn. If Stark refused the office, the king would need new counsel. Someone closer. Someone easily guided. The door opened behind her. Jaime stepped into the candle glow, armor absent, a plain tunic hugging his broad shoulders. You summoned, sister? Cersei turned. Smile poised. The king writes. Lord Stark has slighted him. Jaime's brow arched. Ned Stark? Slighting? The man's a monument to dull honor. Exactly. And Robert bleeds honor as a boar bleeds on the hunt. She walked to her brother, trailing fingertips along his forearm. Tell me, what does a boar become when it is wounded and cornered without loyal hounds? Dangerous, unpredictable, and susceptible. Her smile deepened. We shall offer him hounds of our choosing. Jaime chuckled. Renly dogs at his heel already. Renly snaps at scraps. Cersei said, We shall place the very collar upon the king's neck. Her gaze burned fiercer than the brazier. When Robert reaches the capital, we will greet him with comforting arms. We will spoil him with feasts, tournaments, and laughter. And we shall whisper of how old Stark abandoned his king. She brushed a hand over Jaime's chest. A sovereign without a hand is a man without a sword. He will need a blade he can trust. Jaime's smile faded. Surely you don't mean me. The Kingsguard take no offices. Den. She tapped his chin fondly. Not you. You serve him best at his side, gold and white shining bright. But there are other blades, one who shares his blood. Lord Stannis. Cersei laughed softly, low and cool as spring water. Stannis is iron, not gold. He bends for no one. No, sweet brother. Her green eyes glittered. I mean Lord Renly. Jaime paused, then shrugged. Robert adores Renly as he once loved you. Perhaps. More than perhaps, Cersei whispered. With the right coaxing, Robert will name Renly hand. And Renly, she let the thought linger between them like perfumed smoke. Renly will listen to wise counsel. Jaime looked toward the balcony doorway. And Ned Stark stays frozen in the snow, none the wiser. That is the beauty of distance, Cersei said. Wolves howl loud, yet their echoes fade before they reach the capital. She poured fresh wine, handing a goblet to her twin. Their cups clinked, sealing silent alliances as beyond the walls of the Red Keep. The city slept under wary stars. Morning at Winterfell dawned damp and gray. Clouds pressed low upon the towers, muting every color to ash and pewter. Ned walked the outer yard with Maester Lewin, discussing measures to double grain stores before the first frost. Stable boys bowed as they passed. Kennel masters paused mid-stride, touching foreheads in greeting. Life churned with reassuring routine. Then a horn sounded from the southern gate. Not the single note of departure, but two short blasts. Arrival. Ned quickened his pace to the rampart stairs, heart thudding with half-formed apprehension. A lone rider cantered into the courtyard, atop a piebald gelding, cloak soaked dark with road dust. His sigil, a crowned stag upon a field of gold and black, identified him as a royal courier. He swung down, scanning for the lord of the castle. Spotting Ned, he sank to one knee, fist thumping chest. "My Lord Stark," the man called, voice hoarse from miles of reciting messages. "I bear word from His Grace, King Robert Baratheon." Ned descended, cloak fluttering. The courier produced a roll of parchment sealed in crimson wax. Ned broke the stag seal and unfurled the letter under the watery light. Each word struck like a blow. Robert's breezy sprawl of ink belied urgency. Ned. Road troubles thick as summer flies. Bandits emboldened. Your counsel by Raven is not enough. I need a Stark beside me. Ride for King's Landing with haste. Bring any men you trust. The realm stirs with unrest, and I. The line ended abruptly, ink blotched where quill had perhaps jerked mid-stroke. Beneath, Ser Barristan's steadier hand added, "Lord Stark, the King's safety presses us to request your immediate presence. We travel more swiftly than expected, and will reach the capital within 10 days. Your counsel is of vital import." Ned folded the letter. The yard waited, breath held. Snow-gray clouds above felt suddenly heavy as granite. Catelyn emerged from the great keep, eyes searching. Ned looked to her, already feeling the quicksand of decision shift beneath his boots. He had chosen to remain, but the world refused to let choices stand unchallenged. He dismissed the courier with lodgings and food, then joined his lady at the foot of the stairs. She had read the tension in his stance before he spoke. "Robert summons again," she said. "He rides into danger," Ned answered. "I fear the capital has grown more treacherous than he knows." "You are needed," Catelyn agreed, yet her expression held a pleading softness. "But the North needs you too." Ned looked toward the Godswood, where the heart tree's red leaves shivered. Duty carved them each along different grains. One heart for the realm, one for winter's coming. To choose again felt like reopening a wound barely scabbed. He inhaled. "I will not leave Winterfell," he declared, voice quiet but resolute. "But I will send another." "Who?" Catelyn asked. Ned's gaze landed on the practice yard, where Jon Snow and Robb reviewed footwork with Bran perched between them. Arya cheering critiques. The answer grew in his mind like dawn's first light. "Catelyn," he said slowly, "what would you think of our son riding in my stead?" Her eyes widened. "Robb, to King's Landing?" Stark honor at Robert's side, Ned reasoned. A son grown strong under northern snows, yet unbloodied by southern courts. "If I cannot sit beside the king, perhaps my heir can bear my voice, my caution. It would serve as his first true taste of lordship." Catelyn studied the boys. Robb laughed, unaware of the world turning beneath his boots. Jon clapped his shoulder, sharing the jest. Bran twirled a wooden sword like a triumphant knight. "He is young," she whispered. "He is of an age to learn," Ned replied. "And I would send seasoned men to guard him." "Sir Roderick, Hallis Mullen, Jory Castle, they will temper court edges with northern steel." Catelyn's lips pressed tight. "And Jon?" Ned followed her gaze to the bastard's son. "He rides north soon to the wall. His path is chosen." He felt an ache ripple at that. Jon's heart set on Ranger's black, forever parted from hearth. But he had promised the boy would find a place where his lineage mattered less than his worth. A chill wind swept the yard, scattering straw dache. Catelyn shivered, drawing her cloak close. "Speak with Robb," she said finally, "but be gentle. One does not thrust a lad into the viper's nest without warning." "I will," Ned promised. He laid a hand upon her arm. "And if the realm's vipers bear fangs, my boy will show them the North remembers." Above them, the dying sun peeked through clouds, a pale splinter of wan light that set the tower tops aglow like embers. Ned Stark lifted his gaze to that light, feeling both hope and dread twine within his breast. The road he had refused to walk still wound south, only now it beckoned his blood. In that moment, the direwolf carved into the stone archway seemed to watch as well, eternal guardian of a family that must soon decide how many of its pack to send into the unknown wilds beyond the wall of men's intrigues. The howl of its silent maw echoed not in the air but in the hearts of all who called themselves Stark. And though winter had not yet come, the wind carried its promise upon every breath. Ah, ka. Maester Luwin's quill scratched across parchment like a restless insect as dawn mellowed into a pewter morning. The raven destined for Dragonstone perched nearby on its ring, tilting its black beaded eyes toward the window slit where a tide of chill air flowed in. Ned dictated each line in a low, deliberate voice, his cadence steady, though thoughts churned behind the measured syllables. He invited Stannis Baratheon to remember the plain vows made at Storm's End years ago, urged him to stand vigilant for rumor meant to weaken Robert's reign, and concluded with a sober promise that the North would not fail the realm in its hour of need. When the letter was sanded, folded, sealed with gray wax, and thrust into the raven's little canister, Ned rested his fingertips on the bird's slick feathers, a moment longer than necessary, almost as if imparting weight no scroll could bear. At last he opened the shutter, and the messenger sprang into the sky, a single streak of shadow lost against pale cloud banks. He watched until sight of it vanished, then drew a breath that frosted in the air. The first foretoken of winter's bite, he thought. Even in late summer, the cold crept sooner each year. With slow steps he crossed to the archway leading down into the turret stair, and began the descent toward the great hall. He meant to speak with Robb before the routines of the day scattered them to their tasks. Yet halfway down the stair he paused, listening. From below rose the steady clang of blade on shield, accompanied by Robb's voice and Jones, punctuated by Bran's excited commentary. Ned smiled despite himself and continued down. The practice yard lay alive with mist that steamed off the flagstones, and 20 northern men formed a loose half-ring around the 2 young swordsmen. They shouted counsel or encouragement, but neither boy let words distract. Robb's chestnut hair clung damply to his brow. Jones' pale cheeks burned with exertion. Sir Roderick prowled just behind them, wooden practice blade in hand, quick to intervene should a blow strike too fiercely. Ned lingered in the arch, arms folded inside his cloak. He let the bout run its natural length. Jon feinted low. Robb parried and came about with a backhand slash. Jon ducked beneath the arc and tagged Robb's hip. A stinging point, not a telling wound, yet the onlookers gave a soft cheer. Sir Roderick called halt. Both boys leaned on practice swords, exchanging grins edged with rivalry and respect. Bran hopped from his barrel and ran across the pitch, stick raised, demanding a turn. Arya, mood splattered to the knees, vaulted the fence and declared she would serve as Bran's champion. Laughter rolled in the cool air. Only then did Ned stride forward. Conversation stilled at his approach. Bran froze mid-swing. Arya lowered her stick as if it were a smuggled sweet cake. Robb straightened, gray eyes alight, a sheen of sweat shining on his jaw. Jon shifted a step back, assuming the quiet posture that came naturally to him when father and trueborn children gathered. "Well met," Ned said. "I have news." The phrase fell with sudden gravity. He caught the flicker in Robb's gaze, the lift of Jon's chin, the tilt of Arya's head all in the beat of a breath. "Your king still wishes for a Stark beside him. I will remain, but Winterfell shall not be silent in his counsels. Robb," he let the name settle, "I would have you ride south in my stead." The yard murmured. Robb opened his mouth and then shut it, searching his father's face for jest, for doubt, for some door left ajar to refuse. Finding none, he swallowed. "I ride to King's Landing." He glanced at the ramparts glittering with dew. Beyond those gray walls, the world widened into roads he knew only by mappa and story. Ned nodded. "With a strong escort." Sir Roderick will command it. Hallis Mullen will bear our banner. Jory Castle rides too. 10 good men besides. Enough to mark you as heir of Winterfell, and keep you safe without seeming an army marching on the capital. Nendro. Jon's dark eyes darted between father and brother. He pressed lips together but held his peace. Arya made no such pretense. I want to go. She stepped forward. Stick sword bobbing. I can learn the water dance in Bravo style. Syrio says so in all the stories. And King's Landing has the best blades in the realm. Ned crouched, placing gentle fingers atop her tousled head. Girl of mine, your heart runs too far ahead of your feet. The South teems with ladies' courts as sharp as any sword. I need you here to mind your sister, who will mind your mother, who must mind all of Winterfell while the men ride. Though. Arya's nose wrinkled, caught between offense and pride at being entrusted with weightier duty. Bran tugged her sleeve. We'll watch from the battlements, he vowed. And send ravens. Robb exhaled a long breath. When do we depart? In 3 days, Ned answered. Time enough for you to make your farewells, pack what you need, and study the small folks' roads. The king expects swift counsel. We will not disappoint him. And now, the heat of decision flushed Robb's cheeks. He inclined his head. Half bow. Half acceptance of burdens. As you command, father. That day you leave, Ned said, eyes sweeping the yard. We will feast. One last meal as a full table before ice or intrigue divides us longer. He stood, voice lifting so all heard. Now, back to practice. Southrons measure men by more than delicate words. Robb resumed drills with renewed purpose. Each swing rang brighter, each step cleaner. Ned edged away, and Jon followed in his wake, silent until they gained the quiet of the covered way by the kitchens. There Jon ventured. Will you wish me to ride with Robb? I'd do honor guard gladly. Ned stopped. Your choice remains, Jon. The wall still calls. He searched the youth's face. So starkly Lyanna's in the bones. So Eddard's own in the eyes. Yet, if your heart stirs for another season at Winterfell, you need but say. Jon's throat worked. Winter is near. The Night's Watch needs men. I'll not delay again. A flicker crossed his expression. Jealousy, perhaps, at Robb's grand purpose. Quenched quickly by resolve. But I will ride with him as far as Queenscrown. Then take the east way to the gift. He'll have my sword for the first leg of his journey. Ned placed a hand on Jon's shoulder. That will please me, and him. See Sir Roderick to plan it. His palm lingered a heartbeat. He wanted to say more. Secrets crouching behind his teeth for 15 years. But words froze as always. Jon nodded, and slipped away. Alone for a moment, Ned looked through an arrow loop toward the Wolfswood, stretching shag-dark to the horizon. Ravens cut across the sky in pairs now. Black pinions beating purposeful lines. Even birds travel armored, he mused. That night, supper stretched long. Cold beef, onion tarts, and leeks simmered in butter, vanished scarcely tasted. So engrossed were the family and retainers in Robb's upcoming mission. Benjen Stark had returned unexpectedly from Castle Black, with a small party of rangers, summoned south by Ned's Raven to bid farewell to Robb and escort Jon partway to the wall. The first ranger's presence turned the hall lively. Stories of whites and shadows at the edge of the Frostfangs mixed with japes about southern wine. Benjen clasped Robb's wrist. If the Goldcloaks sniff at your northern garb, he said, tell them winter's chill gives us scents where heat gives them fleas. Even Maester Luwin, usually reserved, produced a dusty scroll map of King's Landing. He unrolled it on the dais table and pointed out the locations of the Street of Silk, the Iron Gate, and the Red Keep's Godswood, small as a merchant's orchard, yet familiar terrain for a Stark's prayers. Robb drank in every detail. Catelyn watched her son's face, equal parts worry and wonder. She stroked Sansa's hair. smoothing an errant copper strand while listening. When the last trencher was cleared and servants removed the trenchards of fruit, Ned stood. "We send 2 ravens tonight," he announced. "One to Sir Barristan to apprise him of Robb's approach, and one to Robert to promise my son's sword and counsel." He looked pointedly at Benjen. "The 3rd raven you will bear to the Lord Commander, telling him to expect Jon within a fortnight." Benjen inclined his head. Jon's eyes shone, a spark of eagerness not dulled by the day's labors. Ned raised a final cup of winter brew, thick with honey and spice. "To Stark blood on the King's Road," he said. "May it flow bold and unspilled." Tankards met, a hollow chorus. Candlelight flickered off pewter and antique shields, painting wavering wolf sigils on the timbered roof. 3 days later, Winterfell's drawbridge rattled as Robb Stark led his column across the moat. Standard-bearers held aloft the gray direwolf of House Stark, its head turned south as though scenting distant prey. Robb rode at the fore, helm clipped to his saddlebow, cloak trimmed in mountain goat fur. Sir Roderick Castle clattered at his right, mustaches waxed to fierce points, mail gleaming. Hallis Mullen, big-boned and silent, bore a long-hafted spear and kept careful watch on the rumps of the baggage horses. Catelyn embraced her eldest until his gorget pressed marks on her cheek. She whispered something only he heard, eyes bright, then stepped away. Ned clasped Robb's forearm, squeezed once in silent pride. Sansa descended the steps with a small embroidered kerchief, the direwolf worked in gray thread, offering it with trembling hands. "A lady's favor, sir," she said with the formality she had rehearsed overnight. Robb accepted, tucking it under his vambrace. Arya scowled at the fuss and thrust a bundle at him. Strips of dried venison wrapped in cloth. "For when you're tired of fancy southern stews," she muttered. Robb grinned. Jon, astride a lean courser of mottled gray, wore plain leathers and a dark cloak. No sigil marked him, yet his bearing bespoke a swordsman's comfort. He nodded to each sibling in turn. Bran stood atop the barbican, balanced between 2 merlins, waving so hard his sleeve threatened to fly. Rickon clutched old Nan's skirt in confusion, half fearful the horns and banners signified war. Snowflakes drifted, fat and slow. First of the season, they melted on fur and steel, then fell faster, swirling in thick curtains. The yard hushed. Every man present felt the quiet menace of early frost. Ned watched the flakes settle on Robb's auburn hair as though crowning him with winter's first touch. Beneath his ribs, a twinge of foreboding twisted. He lifted a hand in farewell. Horns sounded. One long, low call, to mark departure. Hooves clacked on stone, then found the damp earth of the King's Road. One by one, the column vanished into the white hush beyond the gate. Only when they were gone did Ned turn to Benjen. "You'll follow sunrise tomorrow?" "Aye," Benjen said. "We'll ride light 4 rangers besides. Jon will say his farewells at Queenscrown and strike east." He brushed snow from his cloak. "The boy is strong, but watch your lady. Her tears will freeze before they fall." Ned nodded. They walked together across the bailey. "Tell Jeor Mormont I'll send more men come spring." "He'll take men sooner if winter bars the passes," Benjen replied. "But you do as you judge best." He halted at the kennel steps. "Brother, was it wise to keep the black secret from the king?" Ned stiffened. They had not spoken of the old promise in years. "Lyanna rests with me," he said simply. "Robert's heart still bleeds. If he knew." "Aye." Benjen raised his gloved hands, palms out, surrendering the point. "You've shouldered that truth long enough to freeze any man's marrow. I'll trouble you no more." He pulled his hood against the snow and strode away, boots crunching. Ned watched him go, then raised his eyes to the sky where snow fell thicker, scribbling out the sun. Robb's company rode hard the first day, keen to put generous leagues between themselves and any imagined pursuit of regret. The land flowed past in dun and gray ridges fringed by crimson autumn leaves. Snow stuck only in shady dells. Elsewhere the melt turned earth to black pudding. By camp hour, they reached the Umber's hunting lodge perched above the last river. Hearth smoke curled from its thatch roof. Great John Umber himself emerged, booming welcome, barking at servants to lay extra venison haunches on the spit. He clapped Robb's back so hard the younger man nearly bit his tongue. During the feast that night, Great John swore his kin would stand watch on the king's road, while Robb traveled south, lest any weasel share the young wolf scent. The lodge rang with song, until even Sir Roderick begged retreat. Robb nodded through half a horn of umber ale, but his mind drifted already to the lands ahead. The twins and old Walder Frey with his 99 grandchildren, the green fields of the Trident, and at last, the dragon-soon darkness of the capital. In his tent, Robb unrolled the map Maester Lewin had pressed upon him. He traced the route with one finger. Moat Cailin, crossing the next grim marshes by the causeway. The ferry at the Twins. Then southward hugging river roads to Harrenhal. Perhaps, though Sir Roderick meant to skirt it by the mountains, if rumor of outlaws proved true. Finally, the King's Road beyond the Black Water, guarded by gold cloaks once the Crown lands began. He folded the map and lay on his pallet, eyes open long after the campfire collapsed into embers. Outside, a wolf howled, distant yet clear, echoing across dark water. Come morning, Great John presented a farewell gift. A heavy drinking horn banded in bronze and carved with snarling giants. Robb accepted with thanks and strapped it securely to his saddle. Snowflakes swirled again as they set off. Winter follows. Sir Roderick muttered, tugging his cloak tight. The neck will be a quagmire. Robb thought of Ned's parting words. Beware the marsh. Cranogmen strike like frogs' tongues. Swift and sudden. He resolved to keep the column tight and double the night watch. 2 days later, the marsh proved worse than predicted. Sleeting rain soaked them from helm to heel. Every hoof sank to the fetlock in black water. Lanterns had to be slung high on poles to find the causeway stones. One packhorse stumbled off the path, vanished to its saddlebags in a sucking pool, and had to be hauled free with ropes. Flies rose in furious clouds, despite the cold, and unseen things splashed beyond torchlight. They reached Greywater Watch only in the sense that they bivouacked at the coordinates where the moss-covered stronghold was said to drift like a derelict barge. Of Howland Reed there was no sign, only will-o'-wisps flickering in the fen. Hallis Mullen swore he saw slim figures watching from a hummock piled with driftwood shields, eyes glinting. But when torches were raised, nothing remained save reeds trembling in a shapeless wind. Still, they left a sealed scroll on a spear driven upright in the mire. A courteous acknowledgement of Crannog hospitality never seen. Once the marsh lay behind them, they made better time. The twins loomed, 2 identical castles straddling the Green Fork, linked by a fortified stone bridge. Sir Roderick led the party into the left-hand keep, banners snapping wetly. Lord Walder Frey received them in a draughty solar, surrounded by grandchildren. His bones jutted like roots beneath skin. His humor was sly as always. Another stark crossing, he wheezed. Should charge you a toll of daughters, Sir Roderick. He leered at Robb. Though one son replaces another soon enough. Robb bowed stiffly. The crown calls me, Lord Walder. I'll not linger. A pity. My Lady Arwen might fancy your curls. Frey's watery eyes shifted to the bannerman. And how fares Lord Eddard? Keeping chilly counsel with icy gods? Menderus. He keeps the north, Robb answered. Ace his vows require. Frey cackled. Boring work, but safe. Not like court. Oh no. Mind the vipers, pup. They'll suck marrow through your bones before you say boo. He flapped a hand. Go then. Cross my bridge. Leave a promise you'll wed one of mine when Robert's done with you. Robb blinked. The old man was half jest, half Talon. I can promise only good faith, my lord. So does every traveler. Walder snorted. Yet eat my bread, and the crossing is yours. He barked orders. Platters arrived. Flatbread, salt. Small beer. Robb tore a crust, dipped it, and swallowed under Walder's hawk gaze. Satisfied, the Lord of the Crossing waved them on. They camped that night outside the south gate. Sir Roderick summoned Robb to his tent. You realize, the night began. Lord Walder thinks you owe him marriage terms. I offered no such thing, only good faith. In Frey tongue that's half a betrothal, hell keep count. Sir Roderick twirled one waxed mustache. Mind. He may call the debt when least convenient. Robb paced the floor rushes. South already tangles more than pine roots. I'll not snare myself in Frey's nets. He stopped, rubbing his temples. One challenge at a time. Spoken well. Sir Roderick clasped a gauntleted hand on Robb's shoulder. Yet memorize this. Knots formed early unravel easiest. Knots tied in haste choke when strained. Robb nodded. Sleep came fitfully, dreams full of bridges whose stones shifted like chess pieces beneath his boots. Far ahead, King Robert's entourage rattled over the rolling plains of the Reach. Fat with harvest, those storm clouds bruised the horizon. Robert rode without his cloak despite chill wind, chest bare above leather jerkin, belly slopping like half-drained wineskin. His mood veered by the hour, gales of laughter, then brooding silence. Renly amused him with court gossip. Sir Barristan soothed him with counsel. Yet always before camp, the king turned his eyes north, distant as ship sails, then down to the dust where another man's shadow refused to ride beside him. The closer they drew to King's Landing, the more Robert sensed webs closing. Villages whispered. Inns fell silent mid-song when guards entered, and soft-spoken riders peeled off crossroads, with Lannister colors half hidden beneath plain cloaks. Robert drank more and laughed louder. At Maidenpool, he paid a bard a pouch of stag coins to sing the Rains of Castamere in a shrill falsetto until the man's voice cracked, just to watch the Lannister men blanch. At dusk outside Rosby, a courier arrived with 2 ravens, one from Ned Stark, delivered via Moat Cailin relay, and one from Stannis on Dragonstone. Robert beckoned Sir Barristan into his tent, broke Stark's seal first. He read aloud. Robb Stark rides south with my voice. The king's brows rose. He sends his whelp, Sir Barristan said. An honorable gesture, your grace. Stark blood beside Baratheon blood again, as in the rebellion. Robert grunted, then snapped Stannis' letter. It lacked greeting. Rumors of your illness spread by Lannisters in White Harbor. Brother, if you are ill, inform me. If you are not, strangle these whispers at the root. Dragonstone stands ready. Robert crushed both letters in a fist. Stannis ever the blunt mace. He tossed them onto the brazier where fire curled them black. Stark, Stannis, dutiful as draft horses, yet I ride alone. He seized a flagon, drank deep, wiped froth. Sir Barristan, tell me truly. Did I err asking Ned North years ago, instead of chaining him to King's Landing? The old knight considered. A man of honor serves best where his heart resides. Lord Stark holds the North steady. To uproot him might weaken all. To uproot me weakened me. Robert's laugh was short. No matter. We'll crown his cub with gilded courtesy when he arrives. He flung wine at the coals, sending a hiss of red sparks, and stoked the queen's ire with wolf pelts. Mischief gleamed in his eye. Robb, however, approached the capital not on the King's Road but by slower river trails. Sir Roderick chose the route to keep bandits at bay and glean tidings from holdfasts unseen by the Queen's spies. At Stony Sept, townsfolk whispered that Lord Tywin massed forces at Casterly Rock for exercises, though no campaign was declared. At Bitterbridge, a hedge knight reported the Crown Mint had been shut 3 days to weigh new coin stripped of copper. A sign, men muttered, that gold flowed outward faster than in. Robb wrote camp letters nightly, stacking them for ravens northward. Dear father, the small folk fear winter more than war. Dear Sansa, the roses still bloom in the Reach, though frost nips their edges. Dear Bran, I outtraced Hallis's destrier today. Yes, truly. He tried to lighten each page. Yet one letter he rewrote thrice before burning it. Dear Arya, in every village I see girls practicing with sticks, and I think of you. He could not decide if the image would gladden or wound her. The flame licked away the question. On a mild afternoon they crested a low rise and beheld the smoke-hazed sprawl of King's Landing for the first time. Even from miles off, the Red Keep's towers speared the sky like brick daggers. The city walls curled serpentine around huddled roofs. Between them and that spread coiled the Blackwater Rush, sluggish under the sun, dotted with fishing skiffs and grain barges gliding to port. The air smelled of river mud and distant tanneries. Robb's pulse thudded. So many houses, he murmured. More than all the north at once. Hallis Mullen spat Chewleaf Derot. More fleas than dogs, my lord. Keep coin close. Sir Roderick concurred. Well quarter at the Potters, keep outside the mud gate until commanded otherwise. Better walls than the brothel inns along the Street of Flower. Robb nodded. Send heralds to the castle that we await audience. The descent to the city took half the day. By the time they reached the dusty apron outside the mud gate, twilight bled crimson between ragged clouds. Gold cloaks halted them, demanded names, then gaped at the direwolf banner. Word spread quick as plague. Within an hour, a column of lancers arrived bearing the crowned stag and a document bearing the royal seal inviting Robb Stark to audience on the morrow. Quartermasters showed his escort to Potter's Keep, a modest stone holdfast dating back to Maegor's reign, now half ruined. Yet its courtyard was dry, its cellars stocked with barley and saltfish, and its gates thick timber. Robb accepted. His first night in Crownlands, Robb slept little. Bells tolled in the city beyond. The hour for closing tavern doors, the hour for setting watchfires, the hour for extinction of candles. Each clang told him how alone he lay amid a city of 500,000. In Winterfell, silence held comfort. Here noise pressed like water on drowning lungs. At dawn, Sir Roderick groomed him like a squire. He chose a doublet of dark gray velvet trimmed with silver thread, plain yet fit for court. A silver-worked wolf's head clasp closed his cloak. Sword belt polished, hair brushed. Stand tall, Sir Roderick said. Let the Queen see Winterfell's ice in you. They rode with small escort across the bridge of boats, spanning the rush. Crowds parted. Thin children. Burghers in rough-spun, dockhands smelling of tar. Robb glimpsed a red priest preaching on a crate, firepot blazing, proclaiming the night is dark and full of terrors. City guards cuffed him aside. Perfumed breezes from spice shops mingled with slaughterhouse stench. Robb kept his eyes ahead. The red keep's gates towered, wrought of black steel, chased with gold. Inside, halls soared cathedral high, banners of stag and lion draping pillars. Sir Barristan Zelmy met them in the outer yard, white cloak clean as fresh snow. He bowed subtly, honor guard to royal favor, though he outranked half the court. Lord Robb Stark, he greeted. The king hunts in the Kingswood this morning, but returns for feast sunset. Her grace will receive you in the meantime. Robb's stomach tightened. My thanks, Sir Barristan. They passed under archways carved with dancing dragons and smaller scripts of High Valyrian. Compared with Winterfell's honest walls, these seemed intentionally labyrinthine. Sir Roderick kept pace, watchful. Servants in Lannister crimson and Baratheon black flitted about. At last they entered a solar lit by wide arched windows. Cersei Lannister stood beside a marble table, sunlight gilding her green satin gown. On her fingers, emeralds flashed like captured leaves. She regarded Robb a long moment, one eyebrow a fractional tilt, a lioness sizing distant prey. Lord Stark. She purred, voice smooth as cream. The North sends me fine young wolves these days. Robb bowed. Your grace honors me. I come bearing my father's counsel, and not your father himself. How tragic. She gestured to a cushion. Robb declined, choosing to stand. Sir Roderick remained 2 paces behind, hand resting lightly on sword hilt. Cersei's smile did not reach her eyes. His Majesty regrets your inconvenience. He chases boar at dawn. Hunting soothes him, but he will sup early tonight, and bids you attend. She paused. I trust the roads were safe? Safe enough, Robb said, though bandits plagued the riverlands. Indeed, she drawled. Terrible state of affairs. Yet each realm must tend its own wolves in winter. Her gaze flicked to Sir Roderick, then returned. Tell me, my lord, does your father's absence signify disapproval of the throne? Robb blinked. He is Warden of the North. Winter approaches, he stays to guard it. How noble, duty ever the Stark chain. Cersei tapped an emerald nail on the marble. In King's Landing, duty wears many colors. Some shine brighter than others. Robb sensed an unspoken test. He met her gaze. Gray endures when bright colors fade, your grace. The corner of her mouth curved. We shall see. For now, rest. Your apartments lie in the Tower of the Hand. She tilted her head in mild apology. Coincidence, I assure you. The tower stands empty otherwise. She raised 2 fingers. A page darted forward bearing a sealed scroll. The king's provisional welcome. And one for Lord Eddard, to warm northern hearths with southern gratitude. Robb accepted both, bowed, then withdrew. In the corridor, Sir Roderick exhaled. Tongues as soft as hers cut deepest. Robb cracked the seal on his own letter. In Robert's broad scrawl, drink with me tonight, pup. Bring your sword and your wits. Both may be needed. That evening, torches flared along the Red Keep's inner courtyard for the welcoming feast. Long rows of plank tables groaned under roast capon, pigeon pies, honey-glazed carrots, and wheels of Stormlands cheese. Minstrels strummed, dwarfs cavorted, and jugglers hurled flaming brands across the yard. Robert Baratheon arrived last, cloak of sable thrown wide, crown askew, cheeks flushed from drink and wind. Look at this, he roared, arms flung. A feast for the future Warden of the South. Laughter roared. Renly grinned slyly behind his beard. Cersei's expression did not shift. Robb stepped forward and knelt as protocol demanded. Robert clapped him upright. No bowing. We're comrades now. He turned to the crowd. Heir to the North rides alone into lion dens. Let all know the wolves still snarl. He thrust a silver goblet into Robb's hand, brim full of strong Dornish red. Drink. Robb sipped. The wine scorched his tongue. Robert leaned in. Your father's as stubborn as frozen earth. But you, lad, you've got fire. He cuffed Robb's shoulder. Tell me you'll stand with me when the vipers bare fangs. I will serve honorably, Robb said. Honor. Robert barked. Honor kills more good men than swords. Serve me with fists when needed. He drained his goblet. Tonight, eat, drink, laugh. Tomorrow we talk politics. He strode away in pursuit of a maiden juggler, leaving Robb blinking. Renly stepped in, smiling easy. My brother forgets his manners. I'm Renly. Friends call me, well, Renly? He extended a hand. Robb shook. You ride swift, Lord Stark. The city brims with rumor. Some said you crossed the neck on dragon wings. Horse flesh only, Robb answered. Renly pointed skyward. Even dragons shy from Lannister archers. His tone was light, but the weight beneath clear. Come, hey. Sit by me. I'll explain who's who before they eat you alive. Done? The table conversation proved a torrent. Renly introduced lords and ladies. Red wine twins gossiping about Reach Harvest. Varys in lavender silks, sliding near silent. Grand Maester Pycelle droning about import tariffs. Across the board sat Sir Jaime Lannister, golden hair candlelit, studying Robb with amused indifference. Beside him, Tywin's dwarf son Tyrion drained cup after cup, shooting wry observations to no one in particular. At first Robb found himself overwhelmed, but he remembered Sir Roderick's advice. Observe, weigh, speak little. So he watched patterns. How Jaime's gaze lingered on Renly when the younger Baratheon spoke of naval defense. How Littlefinger's fingers drummed the table only when coin was mentioned. How Varys smiled at everyone and ate almost nothing. Cersei presided at Robert's side yet rarely addressed him, conversing instead with Pycelle and Littlefinger. Once her eyes locked with Robb's across the torches. She raised a single brow, then looked away. The feast stretched into moonrise. Robb excused himself early, claiming travel fatigue. Sir Roderick joined him. As they crossed the courtyard, they passed Tyrion Lannister lounging on a fountain lip, examining a glass of wine as though expecting secrets to surface. "Lord Stark," he called. Voice high. "A moment, if you dare." Robb hesitated. Tyrion gestured. "Our heights converge nicely when I sit and you stand." "Humor me." Sir Roderick fidgeted but nodded consent. Robb approached. Tyrion observed him through wine. "Your father is a man of spare words," he said. "You share the gift?" "I listen before speaking," Robb replied. "Wise in a city of parrots." Tyrion sipped. "Tell me, does Winterfell know why the Lannisters mint less copper of late?" Robb frowned. "I am no treasurer. Nor am I, yet I glean truths from cup rims." Tyrion twirled the goblet. "They say Tywin pays double wages at the Rock to anyone forging chainmail. War, or show of war, one cannot say." He leaned closer. "And now, a young wolf prowls the capital. Interesting days. What would you of me, my lord?" Tyrion's mismatched eyes glittered. "Nothing beyond awareness. Night is dark and full of... Oh, wrong God, forgive me. Night is dark, period. Keep a torch near." He grinned, hopped off the fountain, and wandered away whistling. Robb found his chambers at last. The Tower of the Hand stood tall, rooms dusty but furnished. His bed turned down, hearth stoked. A needle-dug winter silk lay folded atop the pillow, a subtle gift. Perhaps from Varys, perhaps from some silent hand. Robb tossed it on a chair and sat at the writing desk. Quill hovered. Which truths did one send to Winterfell without sounding alarm? He began. "Father, the court is a bear pit strewn with honey. I tread carefully." He paused, then crossed out honey, and wrote sweetmeat. He paused again, set the quill down. "Words fail," he muttered. He rose to the window. The city lights sprawled below, thousands of lanterns flickering like a sea of embers. Somewhere out there, across towers and smokestacks, the queen plotted, the king drank, spies shared coin, and tomorrow, Ned's son would stand before iron thrones and golden ones alike, offering counsel none wished to hear. The wind slipped through the shutter, carrying a distant howl. No wolf's cry, only wind funneling between stone. Yet Robb let it steal him. He whispered into the dark. "The North remembers. At Winterfell, Ned Stark found solace beneath the heart tree. Snow blanketed each crimson leaf, white on red like blood under ice." He knelt, still as stone. Catelyn watched from a distance, cloak drawn tight. He had spent hours thus each night since the ravens arrived. One from Robb describing safe entry. One shorter from a silent Duke scribe, relaying rumors of Tywin's war preparations. Rumors Robb had not yet heard. Catelyn approached. Ned had opened his eyes. "The Godswood listens," he said. "They listen, but they do not answer." She knelt beside him. "I fear for our son." "As do I." Ned traced the carved face's cheek with gloved fingers. "Yet fear is no summons lest we spur horses. He must prove himself." He swallowed. "In a pit of lions. Will Robert shield him? If Robert remains sober." Ned's tone held bitterness. "And if Cersei allows." Catelyn's hand sought his. "Benjen's raven arrived. Jon crossed the Queen's ground 2 days past." Ned nodded. A father's heart parted in 2 directions at once, one son to the wall, one to the throne. He pressed Catelyn's fingers. "We keep Winterfell strong. Should the worst come, the North must hold fast." Snowflakes drifted. Somewhere beyond the Wolf's Wood, a lone direwolf howled. The true kind, not a house sigil. It sang a low, haunting note. Ned raised his head, listening. "Signs," he whispered. "Winter's breath grows loud." In King's Landing, winter felt distant as the moon. Yet the chill reached nonetheless in subtler ways, into whispered corridors, into vaults where coin once jingled like spring rain, into men's bones when talk turned to crowns and heirs. Varys moved through nighttime hallways in slippers thinner than secrets, passing red-cloaked Lannister guards who pretended not to see. He paused at a narrow door behind the library stacks and pressed a finger to the latch just so. The wood swung inward on silent hinges. Inside, Petyr Baelish looked up from a ledger lit by a single candle. Have you come to examine my web? Varys returned a placid smile. Merely to remind the keeper of coins that coins vanish faster these days. Yes. Littlefinger turned a page. But so long as fools give me more, what matter? Varys drifted in. It matters when the fools start counting. The crown owes 3 million to the Iron Bank already. Littlefinger mimed surprise. Surely not 3. 2 and change at worst. Varys said nothing. He watched the candle's flame twitch. A young wolf arrived today. Stark blood stirs Robert's wits. Robert's wits stir only in cups of wine. True. Varys clasped hands. Yet imagine if the wolf cub and the stag fawned on each other. Wolves are loyal. They bite those who threaten their pack. Littlefinger shrugged. Tell the lions to sharpen claws. Too loud, Varys whispered. Better coax the cub into the queen's lap. Littlefinger laughed softly. You spin finer dreams than maesters weave towels. But if you mean to tame the north with a marriage braid, I advise caution. Starks marry for love and honor, not politics. His mouth twisted on the last word like a berry too sour. Varys placed a hand over his heart as if wounded. I keep no whips. I merely listen. And profit. Littlefinger murmured. Varys floated back toward the door. Profit is the sound coins make when secrets go unspoken. He stepped into the corridor. The door hushed closed. Robb faced his first council the next morning. The chamber, oval and lofty, rang with voices as the small council gathered. Renly yawning, Pycelle wheezing, Varys patting sleeves, Littlefinger flicking lint. Robert slouched on the throne-like chair at table's end, eyes puffy. A platter of greasy boar ribs stained his beard. Robb and Sir Roderick took seats near Sir Barristan. Robert waved a bone. First order, gold. Always gold. He jerked his chin at Littlefinger. Littlefinger unfolded a parchment. Receipts and expenditures, Your Grace. Crown deficit widens. He listed numbers so vast Robb lost track. However, anticipated loan from the Iron Bank could float us another year. No more loans, Robert snapped. I'll not sell my crown to Bravos. He belched. Renly leaned forward. Then raise tariffs. Who suffers then? Cersei asked, entering unannounced. She took a seat opposite Robb. The small folk starve. She looked pointedly at him. Does the North raise taxes on bread? Robb felt the eyes turn. When stores empty, we ration. We do not bleed peasants. Then the soul. Cersei's red lip curved. Charming. Perhaps bread riots will ration themselves. Robert slammed the table. Enough. I ride tomorrow to test my new spear. He glared at Cersei. Let Pycelle and Littlefinger draft a plan. I'll hear it on my return. He turned to Robb. Come hunt. We'll drink after. Robb inclined his head. As you wish. The meeting dissolved into murmurs. Varys drifted near Robb. A shame Lord Stark could not join us, he sighed. Your father's prudence steadied the realm once. Robb answered politely. I serve in his place. Varys' smile flickered. May the gods grant you patience equal to his. By the third hunt, Robert's drunken toss with a boar ended poorly. The animal gored Renly's favorite hound, and Robert's spear snapped on a trunk. When they returned, Robert declared a contest of arms in the yard to restore spirits. Lances at dawn. Jaime Lannister volunteered gleefully. Robb found himself unexpectedly challenged by Sir Addison Hill, a bold young knight of the Reach seeking fame. Sir Roderick frowned. Best decline, he urged. A broken collarbone gains little. I will not show weakness, Robb said. Squires ready jousting gear. Fresh ash wood lances, heater shields painted gray and silver. Robb mounted a tall chestnut destrier. Hill rode a painted palfrey. Trumpets split the air. As they charged, Robb remembered Sir Roderick's lessons, seat low, knees tight, and angled his shield. Splinters erupted as their lances met. Hill's point glanced off Robb's pauldron. Robb struck square, hurling the Reach Knight into straw. Applause rose. Jaime Lannister clapped lazily. Cersei studied her nails. Robert whooped and poured ale over Robb's helm. Well struck. Stark blood. He shoved a crown stag brooch into Robb's fist as prize. Wear it so the court remembers. That night, Robb sleepwalked through feasting once more. But inside, he wrestled. Triumph tasted less sweet when one realized every victory sharpened the knives of envy around him. He pinned the stag brooch beneath his cloak, where only warden eyes could see. Far north beyond the wall, Jon Snow stood atop the windy battlements of Castle Black, feeling the ancient stones vibrate with cold. The brothers of the Night's Watch drilled below, black cloaks snapping like crow's wings. Jon's cheeks burned raw. Frost rimed his lashes. Yet a fierce satisfaction swelled in him. He had faced his first sentinel shift atop the icy height alone beneath aurora-lit sky, and felt the world stretch infinite. In his pocket lay Robb's most recent raven. Tell the old bear I owe him ale for every league you walk. Jon smiled. He would tell Lord Commander Mormont, and the old man would grunt, but secretly enjoy. Jon penned a reply. Stand tall, brother. Remember the stories we told of seeing the wall together. I see it now, and it is bigger than every lie and every truth. He hesitated, then added, Send me news when you may. The world beyond grows small up here. Torchlight flickered along the curtain wall. Jon gazed south where nothing could be seen. He wondered if a storm pressed across the realms between him and Robb, if ravens could outfly winter. Back in King's Landing, storms blew not from sky but from rumor. One afternoon, while Robb studied tax ledgers with Renly, a servant burst in breathless. The gold cloaks had seized a man smuggling chests of Lannister coin into Fleabottom, paying sellswords to swear fealty to Sir Jaime. Robb requested audience with the king at once, but Robert was deep in his cups. Instead, Cersei met him in the throne room, flanked by Hound Sandor Clegane. Robb bowed. Your Grace, men recruit sellswords with your father's gold. A threat to the peace. Cersei's eyes chilled. My father maintains trade routes. He cannot account for every purse lost. Lost purses don't hire sellswords. She stepped closer, voice low. You impugn my house. Remember whose city you stand in. Robb held firm. I stand for the realm. The Hound's hand slid to sword hilt. Sir Roderick stepped forward, mustaches bristling. Tension crackled. Then a slow clapping echoed from the gallery. Tyrion Lannister descending the stairs. My, he said. One might think the war begun early. Cersei turned her glare. What brings you crawling from brothels, imp? Curiosity. Wolves and lions circling the same carcass. Might be sport. Tyrion bowed to Robb, ignoring Cersei. Lord Stark, perhaps we discuss this over wine. Words with edges duller than steel. Robb exhaled. Agreed. He sheathed his temper. Cersei spun on her heel and strode out, Sandor in her wake. Tyrion chuckled. See, wine solves most perils. Or sharpens them, Robb thought. Letters piled in the Tower of the Hand. From Ned came warnings. Reports claim Lannister troops drill under new captains. Do not provoke open feud. Seek allies. Baratheon blood, Arryn sympathies. From Stannis, addressed to Robert, but copied by courtesy. The Queen's house bleeds you. Trust the wolf. Wolves are loyal. A cryptic note unsigned arrived, sealed in golden wax. The lioness has claws in more than coin. Beware the antlered cub. Robb and Sir Roderick parsed each message long into nights. They consulted Maester Franken of the Red Keep Library, pulled maps of crownlands, tallied houses by loyalty. The task felt like counting sand while tide crept up one's ankles. One dawn, Varys appeared in Robb's solar with no warning. He bowed. A matter of delicacy, my lord. Sir Roderick stiffened. Robb waved him remain. Varys folded hands. The Queen arranges a betrothal. She desires Princess Myrcella to wed a northern heir. Your brother Bran, perhaps. Robb's chest tightened. Bran is 10. a sweet age to forge bonds. Varys' expression remained mild. Should you wish your house close to royal favor, this is fertile soil. Robb saw the trap at once. Accept the proposal. Ned must march south one day to see his son wed, placing the north at court mercy. Refuse, and be branded obstinate. He said, I will consult my lord father. Varys bowed. Of course. I merely convey goodwill. He paused at the door. Gifts accepted early prove cheaper than debts paid late. He vanished. Robb's shoulders sagged. They twist children into chains. Sir Roderick grunted. Not if you break the links first. How? By choosing your own forge. Robb stared at the stag brooch pinned inside his cloak. Each day, it felt heavier. News traveled slower to Winterfell through storm-ridden skies. But travel it did. Ned read Robb's raven about the proposed betrothal. He paced the solar, fist clenched. Catelyn said softly, a match may protect him. Or collar us. Ned crushed the parchment. Cersei sees Robb's neck, but not her daughter's happiness. The game is hers, Catelyn reminded. We either refuse and forfeit position, or accept and play. Ned's eyes hardened. Then we change the board. He summoned Maester Luwin. Send ravens. One to pip Aaron at the Eyrie. One to Stannis. We propose a great council this coming spring to rebalance debts and trade north to east. Use cautious words, but make intent clear. He leaned over the map. And quietly gather provisions. If roads close, the north must feed itself. Then? Catelyn breathed deep. Another long winter. Perhaps longer than any we remember. In the capital, winter's sun glowed weakly. Robb stood atop battlements overlooking the black water. Ships groaned at anchor, masts creaking. Behind him, Renly's footsteps approached. Lovely view, Renly said, leaning on the parapet. If one enjoys dead gulls and tar stink. Robb managed a smile. Better than fen stench. Renly cocked his head. Word is my sister-in-law offers marriages like bread loaves. Careful not to choke. Men? So they say. Renly's gaze turned serious. The realm needs steady hands, plural. My brother cannot hold a quill these days. I intend to see him name a hand capable of writing. He looked sidelong at Robb. Would your father object if it were me? Not if realm prospers. Realm prospers when lions are tamed. Stark steel might help forge that leash. His smile returned. Sly. Think on it. Robb watched Renly stride away. Green cloaks swirling like summer leaves in winter wind. Snow fell in King's Landing for the first time in a generation. Only flurries, melting on rooftops. Yet citizens gasped as though sky wept ghosts. Children tasted flakes with squeals. Dockhands cursed. In the Red Keep, courtiers stared from windows, unsure whether to fear or marvel. Robb lifted a gloved hand outside the Tower of the Hand, catching a crystal that fizzled instantly. He recalled Winterfell blizzards burying towers, and a pang of homesickness stabbed deep. Then he remembered Varys' warning. Some gifts cheaper than debts. He resolved to write his father. We may soon choose if the pack runs south or east. Paths narrow. That night, he penned, Father, honor is a candle in these halls. Wind tests it hourly. Yet flame still burns. The north remembers, and here, so do I. He sealed the letter, watching wax pool wolf gray as twilight. Outside, snow continued falling. Not a storm, not yet. Merely the first hush before wind howled. And somewhere beyond those walls, deeper plots uncoiled, hushed as snowflakes. Each unique, each cold, each meant to settle quietly until weight broke branches and walls alike. The night stretched long, and Robb Stark sat alone, listening to a silence that somehow sounded like winter marching on iron feet. Ka. A dawn haze, the color of tarnished pewter, shrouded the Red Keep, muffling every clatter of hooves and clink of mail in a chill stillness that felt more northern than any soul in King's Landing could recall. The rare snowfall of the night before had melted to a thin crust of ice on roof tiles and marble steps. so that servants crept like cats across the courtyards, carrying baskets and ewers with exaggerated care. Somewhere below the Tower of the Hand, 2 scullions toppled an amphora on the cobbles. The jar burst with a brittle crack, spilling olive brine that steamed faintly as it found a gutter. Robb Stark lifted his gaze from the parchment on his lap, and listened until the curses faded. He sat alone in a window seat, overlooking the inner ward, the light behind him weak and white, his breath fogging each time he sighed. 2 nights had passed since Varys delivered the Queen's proposal for Bran's betrothal, but the question gnawed still, sleepless as any rat. The sealed scroll he meant to send north lay half-written beside him, once, twice, thrice amended, never satisfactory. How did one dress a poisoned needle in ribbon and wax? "Father, the Queen desires a bond between our houses," sounded at once too cold and too naive. "Father." The lioness plays at snares felt dangerously near to treason. He rubbed knuckles across his brow until they reddened. A footfall padded outside the chamber, too quiet for guards, too self-assured for a servant. Sir Roderick's silhouette filled the doorway, mustaches now peppered with more white than gray, since their weeks on the road. "You missed the sunrise practice," he said. Robb managed to smile. Snow turned the tiltyard into a rink of ice. Even Jaime Lannister might break his neck in such footing. Sir Roderick lumbered to the hearth, nudged a log, and coaxed sparks until flames bit. "Knights who break necks improve the realm," he muttered. Then, softer, "You fret over ravens, my lord. Ink cannot cut as steel does, yet see the wounds it leaves. Ben, I share a city with 100 daggers I cannot name," Robb admitted, "and the only armor for that is caution written on quills." He sealed the newest draft, stamped it with the direwolf signet Sansa had slipped into his pack. "This will have to suffice." Sir Roderick extended a gloved hand. Robb surrendered the scroll. "I'll send it with the King's messenger train. 70 fresh ravens ride east at midday. Hard for the Queen's men to pluck them all." Robb braced elbows on his knees. "Sir Roderick, what did the small council debate last night, after Robert retired?" "Coin still." The older knight snorted. "Always coin. Lord Baelish weaves figures quicker than mummers toss balls. Renly argued for new granaries. Pycelle wheezed about crop rot, and Lord Varys watched as if carving graves with his eyes." The knight's jaw set. They flinch at winter like children, flinch at ghost stories, expecting spring before the last chill. They forget the north survives 10-year snows. "Ben Chow." Robb looked again at the yard, where sunlight now glinted off iron-rimmed shields stacked beneath a lean-to. "Ghost stories sometimes walk," he whispered, thinking of Jon atop the wall. Then louder, "I asked for an audience with Grand Maester Pycelle regarding grain tariffs. He has not replied. He will, once he measures which purse strings tug the strongest." Sir Roderick tugged his glove tighter. "Come, break your fast. A warrior who starves his belly starves his mind." They departed together, boots clicking on the frost-dusted stairs. 2 Lannister guards flanked the corridor entrance, crimson cloaks a gaudy slash against gray stone. They bowed with stiff courtesy. Robb noted their spearheads angled just enough to bar a sudden dash. The Queen's house did nothing in half measure. In the vaulted hall where officers and lesser lords dined, trestle tables still bore platters of oat bread and smoked river eel. Aromas of sage and apple cider mingled with the sharper tang of boiled leeks. Renly Baratheon waved from a cluster of bannermen. "Lord Stark, come fortify yourself before King Robert drags us boar hunting again. He swears the beast that gouged his hound has returned twice the size." "Menno." Robb took the offered place beside him, thanked a steward for a trencher, and listened while Renly regaled listeners with scandalous gossip from the Street of Silk. Across the table, Lord Mace Tyrell guffawed. Beside him his daughter Margaery, a slight, composed girl scarcely Sansa's age, smiled without revealing any more teeth than a polite lady must. Robb realized she studied him with a circumspection far subtler than Cersei's overt weighing. The look unnerved him more precisely because it seemed almost kind. Renly nudged Robb's elbow. "You jousted well, cousin of Winter. There's talk of a friendly tourney to celebrate the new year. If you tilt again, You may claim richer purses than a stag brooch. Robb sipped cider to stall a reply. Tourneys were Lannister playgrounds. They won as much by purchased armor as by skill. A friendly tourney, he said at length, will bankrupt more knights than the Crown's mint ever could. Margaery laughed, a soft musical note. Perhaps so, but flowers must bloom even while snows fall elsewhere. May I ask, does Winterfell host winter tourneys to keep hearts warm? No, not often, Robb answered, finding sincerity easier with her gaze. The snow arena serves sled races and spear-throwing contests. Lances shatter in the cold like glass. A pity, she murmured, tilting her head. A Stark lance is straight, they say. Renly's eyes flicked between them, amused. Then he rose, collecting gloves. Come, Robb. The king expects us in the armory. He wishes you to appraise a new swordsmith's wares. Robb excused himself and followed. In the passageway, Renly lowered his voice. The Tyrell court circles you like bees round blossom. They smell change. I am no blossom. Then perhaps a sapling soon to tower. Margaery's courtesy is the Reach's courtesy. Smile while measuring fit for garlands or garrotes. Renly paced, hands clasped behind back. The Queen announced last night that 500 new suits of plate will be commissioned for the city watch. Golden cloaks trimmed with lionwork. That alone drains the exchequer. Robb slowed. And you mean to answer? Renly gave a lopsided grin. It helps when one has friends who grow grain and coin side by side. They entered a colonnade overlooking the Blackwater. Below, a white and red sail glided upriver. Stannis' galley relaying dispatches. Renly gazed at it, thoughtful. If the throne empties, seeds scatter on the wind. Best to sow them early. Robb felt chill though sun struck his shoulders. Your brother lives. May he live forever, Renly agreed lightly. And delegate responsibly. He clapped Robb's arm. Come, blades await. They found Robert already in the armory yard bellowing over a rack of greatswords. This one bends like a reed, and that one rolls an edge after only a dozen cuts. Sparks flew as the king slammed a blade on the anvil. The smith, a lean man with burn scars, flinched. Ser Barristan watched, expression unreadable. Robb approached, bowed. Robert thrust a sword hilt toward him. Here. Swing. Tell me if it sings or squeals. Robb hefted the weapon. Fine balance, not too nose-heavy. He chopped downward into a straw-stuffed target. The blade bit deep. Clean exit. He pirouetted, struck again from the left, then brought an overhead stroke that severed the dummy halfway. The steel rang bright, no waver. He stopped, breathing slow. It sings, your grace. Robert grunted approval. The red rage faded from his cheeks. We'll have 10 dozen forged to this temper. See the quartermaster signs payment. He jabbed a finger at Renly. And you? Stop smirking and start counting casks. War looms. I smell it like boar musk. Renly bowed, but his eyes flicked to Robb. Later, as grooms repacked weapons, he murmured, Every time my brother mentions war, stocks of iron double in Old Town. If you invest, send word, I'll match. War for whom? Robb asked. Any. He shrugged. All? Someone always finds one. The day stretched in small errands. An inspection of granary bins crawling with weevils, a courtesy call upon the Guild of Spicers whose warehouses dominated the Hook, and a terse audience with Grand Maester Pycelle, who insisted on droning each line of a treatise about barley blight before deigning to discuss tariffs. By the time Robb returned to the Tower of the Hand, dusk bled rust across the sky. He found Sir Roderick, sharpening his dagger by candlelight. Raven from White Harbor. The knight announced without preamble. Lord Wyman answers your inquiries. Robb slit the seal. Scanned. He confirms more Lannister coin arriving by way of Myrish cargo. His jaw tightened, and 3 sellsword captains sailed from the port eastward, destination unknown. Sir Roderick drove the whetstone slow along the dagger's edge, unknown only until their blades rise where Lannisters wish. Lord Wyman asks whether we counsel intercepting future cargo in the narrow sea. He yearns for letters of marque. Robb paced. To grant that, father must raise the northern fleet. 12 galleys at White Harbor, 8 at Barrowton. It signals hostility. Hostility already rides these currents. Sir Roderick said, placing the dagger aside. Better honest blades than hidden ones. Robb set the letter down. We'll forward to father, advised caution. White Harbor must watch and wait. Night deepened. In the silence Robb heard, faintly, the roar of the crowd in Flea Bottom. Penniless folk, cheering at a cockfight perhaps, or cursing the cold. He recalled Winterfell's courtyards where howls of wolves had been the loudest echo after dark. Loneliness coiled like smoke round his ribs. He unrolled fresh parchment and wrote by the bedchamber light. Brother, does the wall shine beneath Aurora still? Here the sky dims with smoke, and yet snow startled the city. I thought of our snowball wars. If ghosts walk at your gates, send them my greeting. We fight quieter phantoms here. Robb. He sanded, sealed, left the scroll in the wooden raven box. Then he undressed. Slid beneath blankets, and listened to the distant city, until sleep barged in unbidden. A week crept by, each day edging deeper into winter's hold while the capital fidgeted like a restless broodmare. Grain barges stuck fast in ice floes up the Blackwater. Prices of bread doubled overnight. Bakers' shops drew lines from dawn to curfew. Twice gold cloaks broke up scuffles where men tried to snatch loaves meant for widows. Rumor blamed the North's early snowfalls for choking wagon routes. Rumor blamed Tyrell merchants for hoarding. Rumor blamed the small folk themselves for breeding faster than fields could feed. Robb rode patrol with the city watch to witness conditions firsthand. Flea Bottom's alleys swarmed with gaunt faces, yet every man touched brow respectfully as direwolf banners passed. Some even cheered, to Sir Roderick's wary surprise. Returning at sunset, Robb crossed the fishmonger's square where city watch officers flogged a thief tied to a post. Blood dribbled across the man's knuckles. Robb dismounted, approached. What crime? He asked. The captain saluted. Caught stealing turnips from Lady Errol's stall, m'lord. Third offense. The thief, no more than 16, shook with cold and fear. Ragged tunic soaked by spittle from onlookers. Robb saw bruises ringing the boy's wrists. Chains too tight, perhaps. He felt eyes watching from shutter cracks, measuring northern justice. He turned to the captain. Release him. Beg pardon? I said release. Flogging feeds no mouths. Take him to the granary quarter. He will labor loading carts for 5 days, earn his bread, repay the stall's loss. Benand. Murmurs rippled. The captain hesitated but complied, knives sawing the bonds. The boy's eyes, wide with bewildered gratitude, brimmed yet no tears fell. He bowed as best his stiff shoulders allowed. Thank you, m'lord. Robb remounted. Feed him first, he told the captain. Then set him to work. He rode off, conscience prickling. Was that justice or folly? In Winterfell, he might have done the same. Yet Winterfell's walls kept fewer watchers eager to whisper into Cersei's ear. Evening twilight pooled purple above the red keep when he reached the stables. A shadow unlatched from a pillar. Tyrion Lannister, tucking parchment into his sleeve. Mercy on the streets, he said, voice mild. You grow popular among the poor. Robb swung down, tossing reins to a groom. Better popularity than fear. Careful. Fear collects taxes more reliably, so I'm told. Tyrion ambled beside him toward the Tower of the Hand. Word spreads fast. Soon every pickpocket will plead stark leniency. I prefer they not starve. Commendable. Tyrion's smile sharpened. Yet remember, when a man fears losing bread, he steals it. When a man fears losing his head, he finds work. Which fosters peace, Lord Wolf? Robb frowned. Perhaps the realm needs both bread and honest work. And heads? Tyrion asked lightly. Spare those you can. But break the hand that lifts blades against the innocent. The dwarf pursed lips as though tasting wine. You sound like your sire. King's Landing will love you all the more, before it eats you. They parted at the tower stairs. Robb ascended 3 flights to his rooms. A courier waited near the door. Black cloak, silver badge of the Night's Watch pinned at collarbone. Robb's pulse skipped. He dismissed the man with coin, broke the seal, unfolded Joan's letter. Ink blots dotted from the cold hand. Words tumbled with urgency. Robb. Patrol beyond the Milkwater found bodies, not wildlings. Skin pale, eyes blue. We burned them. 2 rangers lost their minds before dawn. Old Bear orders garrisons doubled. Daya, says winter ghosts stir. Keep watch in the south. Shadows are only longer when sun is low. I carry Ghost at my flank, and he growls at dark corners. Your brother, John. Robb stared long after candles dripped wax. He pictured his half-brother. No, his brother. In black furs beneath a sky of icy stars. Torchlight throwing dancing amber on white snow. Bodies with blue eyes. He shivered though heat breathed from brazier. Whatever haunted the wall felt impossible here amid gilded corridors. Yet Joan's quill did not shake without cause. Robb folded the letter, pressed it to his chest, then placed it inside the inner pocket of his doublet, next to his heart. The next morning, thunder rattled shutters. Thunder born not of storm, but of shouting. Robb and Sir Roderick emerged onto a balcony to see a column of small folk flooding the King's Road outside the mud gate. Women clutching children, men hoisting tattered banners that claimed bread or death. Gold cloaks raised shields in a living wall. Spears bristling. Stones flew. A woman shrieked as a horse reared, hooves lashing. Robb did not think. Arm and mount, he commanded. He and 10 Stark guards galloped from Potter's Keep, banners snapping. At the gate he swung off, strode between gold cloaks, stunned at his arrival. Stand down spears, he ordered the captain, a burly man named Byers. I will speak with them. Dangerous rabble, Byers warned. They struck 2 watchmen already. Robb raised palms. He stepped past the shield wall. The crowd saw the direwolf emblem and roared. Some cheering, some raging. He lifted his voice. Men and women of King's Landing, what grievance drives you? A wizened dockhand pushed forward. Bread moored. Grain ships rot in harbor while lords feast. Others shouted agreement. A stone whizzed overhead, smashing a lantern. Robb kept steady. Who among you speaks for the districts? Murmurs. Then a matron in patched cloak advanced. I be Maris of the Washer's Row, she said, chin raised. And I'll speak if them others hold tongues. Robb inclined his head. Walk with me. He guided her aside, within earshot of both crowd and guards. Tell me numbers. How many hungry? How much coin remains among you? She rattled off sums. 8 streets short of grain, 4 orphan hovels closed. Robb listened. He knew giving away royal granary grain might earn a queen's wrath, yet ignoring the plea risked riot. Return tomorrow noon, he promised, voice carrying. I will deliver barley cakes from Potter's Keep stores and argue your case before the king. Let no child starve tonight. We will open our gate kitchens. The crowd buzzed, uncertain. Maris nodded slowly. Your word, Stark. My word, Robb vowed. But disperse now, before soldiers lose patience. He beckoned Captain Byers. Lower spears. Escort them back, gently. The line of gold cloaks parted. As folk trickled away, one young bravo hurled rotten cabbage that splattered Robb's shoulder. He did not flinch. Sir Roderick's hand flew to sword, but Robb stayed him. Endure, he murmured. When the street cleared, he inspected the watch. See that no harm befalls them, he ordered Byers. The captain saluted more smartly than before. Later in the Red Keep's War Council chamber, Cersei Lannister's fury scorched hotter than any smithy. You compromised city security, she hissed. Incited hope among beggars, which breeds rebellion. Robb faced her across the long oak table. I provided food, not swords. Hungry subjects serve no realm. Hungry subjects do not dream beyond bowls. Cersei retorted, You feed them. They ponder their ruler's weaknesses. Renly drummed fingers, amused. Varys observed with owl-wide eyes. Grand Maester Pycelle gurgled behind his beard. Compassion is a virtue, your grace, though costly. Robert sprawled at head of table, rubbing temples. Enough. The boy did what I should have. A king feeds his people, or his people feed on him. He glared at Cersei. Have stores delivered. 2 wagons daily to the mud gate until ships sail again. Cersei's mouth tightened, but she inclined her head. As you command, my king. Her gaze speared Robb. This is not finished. The meeting shifted to other matters. Riverland raids, Dothraki rumors across the sea. But tension clung like damp wool. When session adjourned, Pettier Baelish sidled near Robb. Mercy buys hearts, he purred. Yet hearts are fickle. Perhaps a purse of coin would buy longer loyalty. Robb glanced at him. If the crown possessed such coin. Littlefinger smiled thinly. I can always find where dragons lie buried. He glided away. Robb exhaled, feeling as if he'd marched leagues though he'd sat much of the day. That night a messenger begged entry to the Stark quarters. A steward from the Tyrell retinue, bearing a single rose carved of jade, petals so thin they seemed translucent. Lady Margaery sends a token, the steward recited. That winter may smell of summer even in stone halls. Robb accepted the delicate blossom, bemused. When the steward left, Sir Roderick eyed the gift. Pretty trap. Or simple courtesy. No gift simple, the knight muttered. He folded arms. So many threads tug you. Tyrell, Baratheon, beggars, watch, and that lioness snare. Mind you don't unravel. Robb set the jade rose on a shelf near Jon's letter. He felt suddenly older than his 19 years. I will mind. Across the city, in the apartments of the Hand, still empty save for dust, Tyrion Lannister shared wine with his brother Jaime. The Kingslayer lounged on a windowsill, watching guard fires flicker along the ramparts. So the wolf pup plays savior, he mused. Tyrion swirled wine. A shrewd move. Small folk adore him. Lannisters have never excelled at winning the streets. Because streets smell, Jaime said with a lazy grin. So do corpses. Tyrion drained his cup. If Robb Stark embodies Ned's honor and Robert's charm, he becomes dangerous. To whom? To anyone lacking both. He poured again. Sister will notice. She already stews, Jaime said, throwing a grape at a lizard scuttling across wall. And father assembles forces at Casterly Rock. Letters speak of war training, but for what war? Tyrion grunted. One he intends to ignite, clearly. Jaime straightened, seriousness rare upon his handsome face. If Tywin stirs banners, the North must answer. Stark father and son divided realm apart is good. Together atop thousands of spears, less so. Then tell. Then keep them divided, Tyrion said softly. He stood, fetched his cloak. I ride at dawn for Casterly Rock. I'd rather parley with dragons than linger in this nest of fools. Jaime laughed. Give father my undying gratitude. Which part, undying or gratitude? But Tyrion smiled as he left. 3 days later, a raven from the Eyrie arrived at Winterfell, wings ragged from storms. Ned Stark read Lady Lysa's reply to his council summons twice, frown deepening. She refused to leave her mountain, citing son's health and ghosts of her murdered husband. The Vale stands alone. She wrote, If winter devours others, we close gates. Ned crumpled the scroll. Seated at the long table were Maester Luwin, Galbart Glover, and Lord Roose Bolton, newly arrived from the Dreadfort. The latter's pale eyes flickered as he noted Ned's displeasure. Lady Lysa will not join a council, Ned announced. Lord Bolton steepled slender fingers. The Vale's absence weakens any confederation. Then we gather strength elsewhere. Ned tapped the map. Lord Manderley prepares White Harbor's fleet quietly. Karstarks send word of mounted patrols along the King's Road, ready to escort grain wagons. The North will not starve, nor will the Neck if we ferry supplies to Moat Cailin. Glover jotted notes. But coin. I will pledge silver from Wintertown stores. And, Ned added, voice hardening, Iftewin raises banners, House Bolton pledges men as well. He fixed Roose Bolton with a gaze sharp as ice. Bolton's steel is Stark steel, the Leech Pale Lord said smoothly. We obey. Meetings stretched into night, candles guttering low. When at last Ned dismissed them, he remained alone in the hall, firelight tremoring over ancestral banners. Memories of Robert and Lyanna flickered like ghosts between war trophies. He closed his eyes, recalling the feel of younger Robert's bear-hug laughter, broken now by drink, of Lyanna's soft hand in his, broken forever. He whispered a prayer to the old gods. Keep my son safe amid lions. Outside, snow began again, thicker. Far north, Jon Snow stood before Lord Commander Jeor Mormont in the map room of the King's Tower. A crude outline of the wall's western edge lay spread among candles. We ride for the fist of the first men, Mormont declared. Voice gravel. Reports of dead things walking cannot be ignored. Jon's heartbeat quickened. May I ride, my lord? Mormont studied him. You've shown mettle, but this march will test men twice your age. Can you bear 5 days on crusted snow, nights colder than sin? I can. Jon thought of ghost growls, of the burned bodies. I must. Mormont nodded once. Very well. Ready your gear. Dawn 3 days hence. The old man's gaze softened fractionally. Your father would want you watchful. Jon bowed. Heart thudding. When he left, Samwell Tarly shuffled after, face blanching. The fist, Sam stammered. They say it's haunted. Everywhere's haunted lately, Jon replied, forcing a grin. But later, oiling Longclaw, he remembered Robb's brave, lonely stand in the capital and wondered which road bore heavier shadows. Spring's first moon rose thin and distant. In the Red Keep, Robb found himself summoned unexpectedly to the Queen's solar. Cersei received him alone beside a tall brazier, its coals perfumed with cedar. She wore mourning black shot with emerald thread, though no recent funeral justified. Her smile, when it came, was slight. Myrcella's needlework bores her, she said. She longs for archery practice. Princesses must know defense, wouldn't you agree? Robb inclined head. As my sister Arya insists daily. Cersei gestured to a sideboard where a decanter of golden wine glowed. Join me. Dornish from Prince Doran's private cellars. He remained standing. Your Grace, I rarely drink strong wine. Then you should begin. Allies toast allies. She poured 2 cups, handed one. Her eyes flicked to the jade rose on his collar. He had pinned it today out of whim. The Reach courts you. I court no one, he said evenly. She sipped. Yet flowers bloom at your neck. She paced toward the window, cup cradled. I have a vision, Lord Stark. Myrcella upon the throne beside a steadfast husband. Peace between lion and wolf. You could champion such future. Your Grace, I am merely Ned Stark's son, and hand in all but name. She turned, eyes flashing. King Robert grows ill with each cask. He will need steady hands. She closed distance in 2 quiet steps. Serve my children, and you will rule more than this tower. Robb smelled cedar smoke, heady wine. He met her gaze, saw not seduction but calculation sharper than any blade. He bowed. I serve the realm. Her mouth curved. The realm chooses who serves in return. She set her untouched cup on table. Think on it. Dismissal tilted her chin. He left, shoulders rigid. In the corridor, Ser Barristan appeared as if conjured. The old knight nodded gravely. A man must pace his steps cautious here. Robb exhaled. Even when he stands still. That night, Ravens winged from the rookery, one north, bearing Robb's brief missive. Queen offers alliance through marriage. I refuse without your leave. And the other for King Robert, who had departed on yet another hunt. Urgent matters at court. Return soon. The birds vanished into midnight. Beneath them, King's Landing seethed with dreams of bread and blood. 3 days passed before Robert returned, muddy and limping, arm gashed by a boar tusk, though he laughed it off. Robb attended him in the royal infirmary. While Pycelle stitched, Robert waved away pain. Trifle, he grunted. Come, pour me ale. Robb handed him the cup. Your Grace, the city wavers. Grain riots nearly flared. You must address the people. Address? Robert grimaced as Pycelle pulled thread. Build ships to fetch grain, throw coin at bakers. Done. They need to see their king cares. Robert regarded the young man. Stark honesty. Gods, I missed it. He downed ale. Tomorrow I'll climb the steps of Baelor's sept and shout blessings on bread. Will that sate them? For a time, Robb allowed. Robert's laugh turned cough. Nothing sates folk long. You feed them, they ask for salt. He gripped Robb's forearm. If I fall, stand by my boy. Juff's a hothead, but a Baratheon still. Robb felt icy pivot in his gut. You will not fall. But Robert's eyes, bleary yet momentarily clear, held foreknowledge. Pycelle finished sutures, dabbed wine on the wound. Robert ordered feasting next night to celebrate living. Invitations poured across the castle. Cersei arranged music, Tyrells offered wine. Even somber Stannis sent barrels of dragonstone oysters. The grand hall glittered like a jewel. Robb wore stark black trimmed with silver, wolf clasp shining. He took place beside Ser Barristan near dais. Cersei swept in late, emerald gown echoing wildfire hues. At her hip walked Prince Joffrey, sneer already curling though he hadn't been slighted yet. Robert saluted with horn raised. Music rolled, courses flowed, laughter swelled. Robb spoke politely with Margaery about northern harvest rituals, laughed at Lord Rowan's jest about icicles on beard, felt tension ease. Yet alertness never left. He watched wine poured, saw each servant's path. Halfway through the third course, spiced hare in fig sauce, a juggler crashed against a serving boy, sending platter flying onto the dais. Instant commotion. Gold cloaks lunged. The boy, face white, stammered apologies, but Joffrey kicked him savagely. Clumsy dog. Robb sprang forward, seized Joffrey's wrist mid-kick. Gasps rippled. Joffrey's eyes bulged. Unhand me. Robb released him but planted himself between prince and servant. Enough. The boy meant no harm. Robert guffawed drunkenly. Let the pup play. A prince may teach manners. But Cersei's stare speared pure venom. You forget yourself, Stark. Robb bowed slightly, voice calm. A prince who rules must rule with measured foot. Joffrey flushed crimson. I'll remember this, he spat. Servants hauled the cowering boy away. Music faltered, then resumed ragged. Robb felt every gaze burn. He returned to seat. Ser Barristan whispered, You saved a life and lost favor. Life weighs heavier, Robb murmured. At dinner's end, Robert clapped Robb on shoulder. Good show, he slurred. Though you vex the queen. He staggered off, arm around Renly. Cersei watched from shadows, lips a thin red slash. Before Robb could quit hall, Tyrion intercepted, shaking head. You humble princes now? Bold. I stopped cruelty. I applaud. Yet cruelty feeds lions. Tyrion's eyes glimmered. Guard your lambskin. Robb scarcely slept. At dawn, Ser Rodrik burst in. Wake, urgent. He tossed a folded parchment, marked with the lion sigil. Robb unfolded. Robb Stark is hereby summoned to answer for assault upon the royal heir. custody to be remanded pending resolution by King's Council. Signed, Cersei of House Lannister, Queen Regent, Lion of the Rock. Robb felt blood hammer temples. Assault. Ser Rodrik drew sword half-inch. It begins. Summon Renly? Barristan? Any ally? Robb paced. If they jail me, father will march. Outside horns sounded. Short, sharp blasts. Ser Rodrik peered from window. Gold cloaks at gate. Robb pulled on boots. I will meet them, but not alone. He buckled sword. The direwolf clasp glinted like frost under dawnlight. He descended towers, heart steady despite roaring pulse. In the courtyard a dozen gold cloaks waited, captain helmeted, writ in hand. Behind them, however, stood Ser Barristan in white, and Lord Renly in forest green. Arms crossed. The captain cleared throat. My lord, by order of the queen. Renly cut in. The queen regent issues no orders while the king breathes. His grace sleeps off wine. He eyed the writ. This holds no seal of the stag. Ser Barristan added, voice iron. If you mean to lay hands on Lord Stark, you require the king's word or the small council's full consent. The captain swallowed. I have instructions. Then fetch better ones, Renly said coolly. Before I rouse my brother. Gold cloaks retreated, embarrassed. Robb exhaled, nodded thanks. Renly smiled faintly. Careful, friend. You play lion games now. I will not kneel to injustice, Robb replied. Ser Barristan placed gauntlet on his shoulder. Hold fast. The realm sees. But as the escort departed, Robb glimpsed twin pairs of green eyes watching from tower window. Cersei's and smaller Joffrey's, cold calculating. He understood. Battle lines drawn, though no swords yet crossed. A raven left that evening. Black wings, dire news. Ned Stark read it beneath Winterfell's heart tree. Snow ghosting down. He rose, summoned Galbart Glover. Ready the war horn, he said. If King's Landing puts my son in irons, we march. Glover paled. War, my lord. Not yet. But winter wolves bare teeth when cubs are threatened. He closed his fist. Send riders to every bannerman. Quietly, the pack may soon run. Above the wall of ancient oaks, storm clouds gathered, bruised and bottomless. In his solar, Ned bent over parchment, began a letter. Robert, old friend, do not let false counsel sunder our bond. A father asks your mercy. Across the sea of ice and ambition, sons labored under shadows cast by crowns and oaths made long ago. And winter, heedless of quarrels, crept closer on silent, iron-shod feet. Okay. The frosted hush of pre-dawn lay thick over Winterfell's inner ward when Hullen the Master of Horse led a rangy gray charger toward the forge for reshoeing. Hooves crunching through powdery drift. From the battlements, Ned Stark watched the lanterns bob around them, each little flame a fragile promise against raven-dark sky. He had not slept. Instead, he moved from wall to wall, searching the black horizons for sign of riders. His mind tallying bannermen as a craftsman tallies nails. Karstark, Mormont, Glover, Tallhart, Riswell, Serwyn. Even those lords whose faith in Winterfell had never wavered might want the king's word before raising swords. Still, the ravens had flown. Once unleashed, words could not be recalled any more than arrows. Below, the Godswood gate opened with a whisper of iron hinges, and Catelyn slipped out, cloak pale against the yew-dark path. She joined him at the rampart stair and ascended without breathless haste, though her cheeks were raw from wind. Snowflakes in her hair glimmered like shards of quartz. They stood a moment side by side, gazes drawn north where the vast emptiness seemed to breathe. He is still free, she said, voicing what she had gleaned from his stance. Your raven came before dawn. Renly and Ser Barristan saw the Queen's writ for what it was. Ned's voice rasped. Too many hours of counsel, and too few of water. But I feel the bars closing. Robb walks a bridge thinner than ice. Then? Catelyn pressed gloved hands to the stone. Your letters summon men. Men mean war. Are we ready? Readiness is a wish, Ned answered. Necessity is the spur. If the Lannisters seize him, I will not barter with silence. Wind moaned through arrow loops. Below, smoke rose from the forge chimney in slow blue coils. Catelyn's gaze drifted toward the East Watch Tower where Bran often perched to map the flight of crows. We will hold Winterfell, she said firmly, though her eyes betrayed the tremor of a mother weighing how many children she might yet have to send away. 2,000 leagues south. Dawn woke kings landing in damp gold and acrid hearth smoke. Robb Stark stood at the arched window of the Hands Tower, viewing the city from roof tile to distant marsh. The black water gleamed pewter beneath a spiderweb of rigging. Gulls wheeled over the fish market. From the temple district, sept bells tremored. Such mornings in Winterfell had always smelled of pine and fresh-cut snow. But here the air carried a heavy brew of tanneries, horse dung, roasted onions, and the faint sour of unemptied gutters. He had grown half accustomed to it, though memories of frost-clean breath still flared behind his ribs whenever sunlight struck the red-gold domes of Baelor's Sept. Sir Rodrik entered without knocking, scabbard slapping greaves. He paused only long enough to see Robb cross the floor to him, boots whispering on rush mats. The king calls council, the knight reported. Urgent, he says. Urgent for whom? Robb asked, but made for the door at once. Vigor still hummed through his limbs despite a night spent drafting replies for his father, Jon, even Sansa, though the letter to her remained half-finished. How did one describe a feast-turned battlefield without rousing terror? They crossed outer halls where household guards dozed, and kitchen stewards peeled oranges whose sharp scent cut the corridor's stale air. Down a curving stair, through a vaulted gallery filled with dust-veiled statues of Targaryen kings long dead. When they entered the council chamber, they found Robert already seated, tunic rumpled, a skin of summer wine at his elbow, but eyes startlingly clear. Cersei stood behind the table, hands folded at hip level like a priestess guarding flame. Renly occupied a chair to Robert's right, drumming knuckles lightly, face unreadable. Grand Maester Pycelle hunched near a brazier, quill poised. Varys glimmered in lavender satin. Sir Barristan posted near the door. Only Petyr Baelish was absent, summoned elsewhere, Robert claimed with a scowl. Robb and Sir Rodrik took the two empty seats. A squire closed the heavy oak behind them. Robert leaned forward, both fists on polished wood. This city is tinder. Grain riots one day, talk of my poor health the next. I will not have bastards in taverns wagering on the king's deathbed before I take it. Today we fix this. He slapped a parchment. Littlefinger promises a loan from the Iron Bank, again. 7 hells swallow Bravos and their purse strings. We fund our own granaries. Robb sensed opportunity. The north can spare oats and barley. Deep cellar stores run thick this season. Shipments could sail from White Harbor, thrice a moon. Then now wall. Cersei's smile flickered, thin as parchment. Provided northern gales do not dash the cargo. Northern captains know their waters, Robb countered. And Lord Manderley's loyalty is as old as his merman sigil. Robert grunted. Good. Draft the terms, Maester. See coin moves by week's end. He reached for his goblet but did not drink, instead pushing it aside. Next, Sell's words. 200 golden company men sighted near the hook, wearing crimson sashes over mail. Whose coin do they bear? Renly flicked an eyebrow toward Robb but said nothing. Varys folded his hands, fingertips touching. The spy's whispers hold no certain payer, your grace, but their ships sail under Lannister charter. Silence pulsed. Cersei's emerald gaze never left Varys, yet her voice remained velvet. Father employs guards for our warehouses. Trade lanes are lawless. Not lawless, Robert snapped. This is my city. Robb had to temper his next breath. Guards, yes, but Sellswords sworn to a foreign company answer only to gold. He considered. Replace them with Northmen. Northmen, Cersei repeated softly. So the wolf proposes bringing his pack to guard the lion's house. Charming. Sir Barristan cleared his throat. If Lord Stark's men serve under the City Watch banner, their swords bear the crown, not the direwolf. Robert nodded. Done. 100 Northmen shall rotate with the gold cloaks. He glanced at Cersei. Safer that way. No house may claim more dogs than another. Cersei inclined her head with regal slowness, but the slitted flicker of her eyes said this concession would not be forgiven lightly. As council dragged, Robb weighed each ripple. Coin, grain, soldiers, rumor. But one question gnawed. Why had Robert summoned them with such abrupt decisiveness? He found out when the last scroll had been signed. Robert gestured for all save Sir Barristan and Robb to depart. Cersei's brows lifted, but the king's flat stare sent her sweeping from the room, silk whispering cold as steel. When only 3 remained, Robert spoke low. Tywin Lannister calls banners. Robb's pulse hammered. Sir Barristan's jaw tightened. Ravens reached me from Stokeworth, Robert went on, pinching the bridge of his nose. 3,000 Lannister men camping near Wendwater, drilling shield wall formations. Tywin claims routine march. Routine, my fat arse? He smells weakness. He means to force dishonor, Robb said. A threat so large you bend in knee by compromise. Robert looked up. I do not bend, and neither will you, but I can't march half the realm for rumors. I need proof. One act of open defiance. He shoved a sealed letter across the table. This rides to your father tonight. Should blood spill? We will stand shoulder to shoulder, as in the rebellion. Betty. Robb accepted the wax-warm parchment. I pray such proof never comes, but if it does, the North will answer. Robert slid huge hands through his beard, exhaling. You may leave. Sir Barristan. Stay. Robb walked out beneath the twin stags carved above the arched door, feeling their antlers hang like omens. In the passage, footsteps murmured. Servants bowed. Somewhere a minstrel's harp thrummed a mournful tune. He tucked Robert's letter into his cloak. It weighed heavier than plate. That evening in Potter's Keep, he unsealed it under Sir Roderick's wary eye. Robert's hand sprawled across the page. If Lord Tywin moves one sword across Crown Land without leave, Ned raises banners north, and I raise the south. Stark honor and Baratheon wrath will grind the rock to gravel. Until then, peace. Sir Roderick exhaled. Peace on a sword's edge. Yet peace still, Robb answered. So our task is hold that edge. Snow lashed the wall in flaring sheets, when Jon Snow and the column of Black brothers wound their way through the ragged pines north of the Milkwater. The fist of the first men rose ahead like a clenched hand of rock, white-clawed by rime. Wind keened through fissures. Jon's cloak froze stiff. Even Ghost's pale coat glittered with hoarfrost. Yet his pulse thrummed with a fierce steadiness. Every breath curled silver. Every heartbeat echoed the memory of dead blue eyes buried weeks prior. They climbed switchbacks carved ages before. Atop, Lord Commander Mormont ordered camp made beneath the ancient ring fort of piled black stones. Fires sprang up, feeble defiance against the roaring night. Jon and Samwell Tarly shared a windbreak of half-tumbled boulders. Sam's teeth chattered as he unpacked quills. Ravens hate this cold, he muttered. Feathers freeze then. A gust snuffed his words. Jon stamped snow from boots, unslung Longclaw. The Valyrian steel glinted moon-ashen. He remembered Robb's letters. Some new, some reread until the ink felt carved. Lines about grain riots and lion snare, but also about strength and loyalty. Jon thumbed the ridged crossguard. If lions bear claws, we will answer with northern steel, Robb had written. Jon raised the blade to the pale glow of aurora swirling overhead and whispered, and black steel as well. Midnight brought screams. Jon jerked awake to clamor. Torchlight bobbing, men shouting. He snatched sword, burst into the aisle between tents. A rangy ranger named Bannon staggered from the darkness, blood spouting black from throat ripped near through. Behind him lurched a corpse. Skin milky, eyes glacier blue, nails like ice talons. Two more shapes followed, their silent advance relentless. Men swarmed, spears failing. Blades skittered off frost-armored flesh. One creature seized a brother, tore flesh from cheek with frozen fingers, flinging him aside. Jon's instincts flooded with fire. "Dragon glass," he cried, though the obsidian daggers lay packed in saddlebags. He swung Longclaw. The Valyrian steel cut the corpse's right arm clean, but the cleft flesh fumed with frost. The thing kept coming, clawing, hair-raisingly silent. Sam appeared, half sobbing, thrusting a torch of pitch-soaked pine. Jon batted the flame into the corpse's chest. Blue eyes flared ice-white, then burst. No sound, only a hiss like snow on forge. The thing writhed, collapsed into brittle shards. The others drew back, but the ring of torches closed, and black brothers stabbed with fiery lances, until all that remained were melting slivers. Lord Commander Mormont's face in torchlight seemed carved granite. "They come south," he growled. "And if they reach man's land, we are all dead men." Jon wiped blade on snow. "We must send warning." "Aye. But ravens fly slow in storm." Mormont slammed gauntlet on Jon's shoulder. "Ride, you and 10 swift rangers. Carry truth to every holdfast between here and Winterfell. Go." "Betty." Wind howled, like mourning wolves. Jon nodded, heart clenching. Ghost padded to his flank, eyes embers in the dark. By dawn they rode, hooves punching through crusted snow. Letters from Robb and Ned rode in Jon's satchel. Bits of home that now felt worlds distant. Yet the wall across Jon's shoulders felt lighter than the one growing between throne and wolf far south. In the Red Keep's Godswood, a mere acre of imported alders and willows, arranged around a tiny heart tree, Robb knelt on damp moss. Dawn's first light sifted across the blade-white face, carven in the weirwood's bowl. Though the face was narrow, lacking Winterfell's deep grooves, the solemn eyes still summoned childhood hush. He whispered the ancient words his father taught. "We see you, we hear you. We mend the broken line." A soft snap of twigs announced Renly's arrival. The Baratheon knelt a distance away, as courtesy demanded, head bowed though he prayed to the Seven. After a time he rose, brushed leaves from his knee, and came to Robb's side. "Word from Bitterbridge," he said, voice hushed so as not to profane the grove. "My allies in the Reach confirm Tyrell horse has begun trotting north on exercise." Exercise. Training for tourneys, so they say. Yet every war in the last century began with such exercise. Renly laced hands behind back, strolling the pool's rim. "Loras rides among them. If my brother names me Hand, the Tyrells mean to stand with us." Robb regarded the faint ripple where a carp surfaced, lips puckering at a drifting petal. "If Robert names you?" Renly's smile flashed. "Aye. But Robert loves decisive men. And decisive armor. Watch." He produced a narrow parchment. "Within a fortnight, the royal smiths will finish half the plate we requested, paid for by Reach grain advance. Your plan for North grain convoy balances the crown ledger." Littlefinger scowls but cannot argue numbers. Robb took the parchment, scanning neat columns. Gold dragons, silver stags, iron coins tallied. Resources enough for months, if shipments did not vanish or burn. He exhaled. Yet there remained the queen and her father. Renly's shrug looked more a slip of cloth than a gesture. Father may command lions, but gold no longer buys unanimous blades. If Tyrells, Arryns, and Starks hold fast, rock trembles. He eyed Robb sidelong. Careful though, tremors crushed those atop the fault. Robb folded the parchment. "I feel the quake already." His tone carried a weight that made Renly fall silent. In that hush, the Godswood stream gurgled, a deceptively gentle sound. That afternoon an envoy arrived from Casterly Rock. Sir Kevan Lannister, Tywin's brother, armored in understated red-gold wool cloak trimmed sable. 30 mailed riders escorted him yet bore no banners beyond the lion, a show of dignity rather than threat. Robert welcomed Kevan in the throne room with loud rejoicing, calling for ale and harpists. But Robb watched the older Lannister with the wariness one saves for a dusk sky, half lit by lightning. Kevan's courtesy verged on warmth. He praised Northern Blades volunteering for the city watch. He offered a wagon of gold for bread kitchens. He even bowed low to Robb, speaking of my nephew's restless passion, a veiled apology for Joffrey's outburst. Such graciousness masked aims sharper than boar spear. Robb felt it in the measured pauses. When Robert retired to hunt again, cursing stitches and royal paperwork, Kevin requested private parley with the son of Winterfell. Robb agreed under Sir Roderick's near-glued watch. They sat in a colonnade garden high above the city. Lemon trees still clung to green fruit, but their leaves hung limp in the cooling air. Kevin accepted watered wine, set it aside untouched. "Lord Robb," he began, "my brother regrets any friction between our houses." Robb's brows quirked. "Is friction so easily regretted?" Kevin lifted both hands. "Soldiers move at rumor. Gold flows too quickly. Lord Tywin instructs me to assure you no Lannister host will trespass on crown land without writ." Your cell's words marched beneath crimson sashes. "Guards for merchants?" Kevin replied smoothly. "But I accept they appear excessive. They will return west by week's end." Robb pinched stem of his goblet. "This kindness expects kindness in turn?" "Only clarity." Kevin leaned forward. "King's Landing twists whispers into daggers. My brother wishes confirmation that Winterfell bears no hidden claim against the crown." At that Robb laughed, startling himself with the dryness of it. "Hidden claims. The North gives grain and men when asked. We claim only right to breathe free of intrigue." Kevin studied him. "A fine posture." "But posture." He reached into cloak, withdrew a smaller parchment, offered it. Robb accepted, unrolling. It read, "His Majesty King Robert Baratheon and his good son Prince Joffrey Baratheon propose alliance of houses by marriage of his Grace daughter, Princess Myrcella Baratheon, to Lord Robb Stark, heir to Winterfell. Terms of dowry and wardship to be agreed. Signed, Lord Tywin Lannister, hand in all but name." The signature chilled Robb more than the air. He looked up. "My father is Warden of the North. Such proposition should address him." "Indeed," Kevin said. But the Queen feared his burdens. He remained poised as a cat, assessing prey's panic. "Consider. A wolf among lions is vulnerable, but a wolf who weds into the pride stands above the mauling." Robb refolded the letter carefully. "I will answer after council with Lord Eddard." "Of course." Kevin stood. "My brother hopes for swift acceptance." "Swift. Before winter walls roads." When the envoy departed, Sir Roderick let out an explosive breath. "The bait is cast." Robb held the parchment between thumb and forefinger, as though it might stain. "And worms enough to hide the hook. Will your father agree?" Robb could not say. He went to his chambers and wrote 3 letters. One for Ned. "Lion seeks wolf for marriage. I await your word." One for Jon. "The cold things you fight mirror the cold hearts here." One for Catelyn. Shorter. "Pray guide father's counsel. I stand firm but not alone." The raven bearing Jon's urgent warning reached Winterfell before Robb's letter. Ned read the parchment while Maester Luwin's solar smelled of hot pitch and parchment glue. The description of blue-eyed corpses made his blood congeal. Memories of old Nan's stories crowded the air. White shadows, silent snows. He closed the letter slowly, looking out the narrow window at darkening clouds. "Benjen once told such tales," he murmured. "I did not laugh, but neither did I believe." He turned to Luwin. "Send word to every northern holdfast. Double watches, prepare fire arrows, gather dragonglass if any remains." "Dragonglass?" the maester repeated, startled. "Obsidian," Ned corrected. "The children's blade. We may need old answers for older threats." That night, he dreamt of the crypts. Long vaulted chambers beneath Winterfell where kings in furs sat beneath stone wolves. Torchlight wavered. Lyanna statue watched him, maiden's face stern. He thought he heard the sound of chains rattling beyond the last vault. Chains made of snow and ice, dragged by something that used to be a man. He woke before dawn, drenched. In the city of King's Landing a quieter storm gathered. Cersei moved through her private solar like a green and gold flame, hair coiled high, gown slit to show pale shoulders. At her elbow trailed Qyburn, the dismissed maester who had found new patronage in the queen's love for unconventional remedies. She traced Tywin's proposal on parchment with manicured nail. If the wolf marries my daughter, he crosses the lion's threshold willingly. She mused. A future king of the north who owes his life to me. Qyburn inclined his head, thin lips curving. Allies forged by blood are hard to break, though sometimes blood proves fickle. Cersei's eyes flashed. This one will not prove fickle. He is his father, honor shackled to duty. Offer him enough duty, and he gladly accepts the shackle. She tapped the parchment. But if he refuses, refusal must carry consequence. Qyburn finished softly. Lions do not beg. Cersei smiled, cool as marble. No. Lions hunt. Robb's reply did not wait on Northern Council. He sent token acceptance of discussion only, buying time. When Kevin rode west, Robb retired to the old Tower of Maegor that overlooked the Blackwater. There, he convened a clandestine meeting with Renly, Ser Barristan, and, bizarrely, Tyrion Lannister, who had returned from the Rock sooner than expected, claiming urgent need to sample the capital's wine. The dwarf eyed each face over a carafe. If lions and wolves wed, the stag becomes third wheel, Tyrion observed. Unless Renly here fancies the bride's brother. Renly's laugh was brief. My taste runs to lilies, not lions. He sobered. Father's letter? Robb handed it across. Tyrion read, whistled a single note. My sister hunts, big game now. He handed it back. Accept, and you sleep with a golden blade above your pillow. Refuse, and she convinces the realm you insulted her honor. Ser Barristan's brows furrowed beneath snowy hair. The king must decide, not the queen. Perhaps we should remind him, Renly said. His new wound pains him. According to the royal leech, he drinks milk of the poppy nightly. Robb pinched the bridge of his nose. A letter may not pierce haze of pain and liquor. He looked up. Then we show him clarity. A demonstration. Bendawan. Tyrion's eyes twinkled. Oh, do include something explosive. Robb outlined a plan. Distribute North grain openly in the Mudgate districts at midday, with banners bearing both crowned stag and direwolf. An act of joint mercy unlikely to be overshadowed by queenly edict. Then ride with Robert to witness the gratitude. Let the king feel kinship with the wolf and the people alike. And let the queen realize her hold on bread and hearts loosens. Renly grinned. A parade of cauldrons. The Lord of Storms loves fanfare. Ser Barristan nodded. I will ensure no one tampers with the stores. Tyrion raised a goblet. I simply must watch. The appointed day dawned bright, but brittle. Wagons 4, long rolled from potters, keep bearing steaming cauldrons of barley stew, thickened with carrot onion, bits of salt pork. Northmen rode flanking in cloaks of gray and black. Gold cloaks formed outer cordon, surprised but compliant under Ser Barristan's command. Renly, wearing Baratheon black and gold, kept pace, exchanging quips with beggars lining the streets. Robb rode its center, direwolf banner tied to the crowned stag. Cheer rose like surf. The smell of stew drifted, rich and warm. Children scampered, bowls extended, receiving ladles of comfort. Women wept, men shouted oaths of loyalty. From a high balcony of Maegor's holdfast, Cersei watched, emerald eyes narrowed. Qyburn stood near, murmuring reports of crowd swell. She dismissed him with flick of wrist, turned to Joffrey, who ogled the throng. Note how easily wolves gather sheep. She told her son, if you would rule, you must claim loyalty by fear, not soup. Joffrey's jaw tightened. When I'm king, they'll kneel or bleed. Just so. Cersei smiled thinly. The people's roar followed the parade back through the Gate of the Gods where Robert, roused from bed, waited astride his massive stallion. Fresh bandage and battered helm gave him a barbaric mien. When he witnessed the crowds cheering the stag and wolf standard, his eyes glimmered wet. He laughed, pounded Robb's gauntlet. You've done more in a day than half my council in a year." But that night in Feast Hall, Cersei unleashed her counterstroke. As minstrels played, a small messenger approached Robert's chair bearing scroll. The king read, face seething from flush to ashen. He slammed goblet. "Who spreads this filth?" he roared. The hall stilled. He thrust the parchment at Renly, too loudly for it to be secret. "They say I am unfit, that the queen must rule in my stead while I rot on wine." Renly scanned quickly, frown deepening. Robb glimpsed only a few lines. Talk of Robert's failing faculties, of lions needed to shepherd a drunken stag. At the bottom glared the direwolf seal, falsely forged. Gasps flitted, eyes darted toward Robb. Cersei rose, voice soft as frost. "My lord husband, I know nothing of such letter. Who else uses a wolf?" Robert spat. Robb stood. "Not I." He took the scroll, turned it for all. "This seal is counterfeit. Note the snout too narrow, eyes too large." "Forgery," Renly agreed. "Cleverly done, but false." Cersei's brows curved. "Can the North forge seals so poorly?" Robert waved arms. "Enough. I will know who penned this, or heads will roll." The feast broke in uneasy murmurs. Robb left early. Dawn found him still awake, mind parsing the trap. Someone wanted him chained as traitor while appearing to feed the poor. Some lion perhaps, yet clever enough to mimic wolf sign. Or was it Littlefinger, sowing chaos for coin? He penned urgent warning to Ned, and another to Jon, events spiraling. But before ravens could be dispatched, a breathless steward burst in. "The king has collapsed." Robb raced through corridors to the royal apartments where Pycelle and 2 leeches scurried. Robert lay limply upon bed, face slick with sweat, wound reopened and bleeding through linen. The leech clamped. Pycelle poured poppy milk. Renly hovered, fury and worry warring behind his eyes. Pycelle rasped. Boar tusk tore stitches. Robb felt sudden guilt. Had the stew parade emboldened Robert to ride too soon? But Renly shook head. "No hunt today." "How?" Ser Barristan answered. He sparred in yard with Jaime. Overexerted. Blood seeped. Robert's eyelids fluttered. He gripped Robb's wrist weakly. "The realm, yours, honor." Then drifted into poppy haze. That night, the small council met in unscheduled panic. Cersei seated herself at table's head. The king cannot rule while fevered. Protector of the realm must assume burdens. She placed a parchment with Robert's smeared signature naming her regent during convalescence. Renly objected. "The hand countersigns such decree." Robb rose. "And the hand is not present." "My father," Cersei said, voice edged, "will arrive within 10 days to accept the role." Tyrion snorted. "How convenient." Littlefinger toyed with a coin. "And if the king dies?" The air chilled. Cersei's green gaze fixed on Robb. "Then Queen Regent becomes Queen Mother to King Joffrey." "Unless," Renly said lightly. "The realm calls Great Council to confirm." Eyes darted. Robb felt the noose tighten. Robert's life balanced on Stitch. Tywin rode east. Lions closed. If Robert died before Ned arrived, Robb could be prisoner within sunrise. He made decision at dawn. Summoning Ser Roderick, he issued orders. "Pack quietly, muster their 50 Northmen. Prepare ship at the fish market pier disguised as trader." Renly offered escort. Tyrion offered diversion. Ser Barristan offered oath to stall any arrest until sundown. But before they could move, a messenger arrived. White banner of truce, Lannister seal. Cersei requested Robb's presence at Maegor's holdfast garden. Against counsel, Robb went, accompanied by Hallis Mullen and 2 guards. Cersei waited by a reflecting pool, expression unreadable. Beside her stood Princess Myrcella, delicate in lilac, golden hair drifting in breeze. Cersei dismissed all chaperones but 2 lion guards. Robb did same, though Hallis lingered 10 paces. "Lord Stark," Cersei began. Voice calm. "My father approaches with host, but also with gifts. One gift is peace. Wed my daughter, and peace settles all frictions." "Then show." Myrcella glanced shyly at Robb. She could not be more than 10, eyes wide like fawns. Robb's throat tightened. "Your Grace," he said quietly, "no child should be pawn. Every child is." She replied, "We lie to spare tears only until tears help our cause." She touched the girl's hair. "Choose. Accept now, or war lights the realm. Myrcella will join you in Winterfell. Come summer, your heirs will bear lion's blood, securing north and south." Robb knelt to meet the princess's gaze. "Your Highness, I would see you safe and happy." He rose. "But I cannot answer without my father." Cersei's smile chilled. "Stall if you will. My father's host brings more parchment and steel." She gestured. The lion guard stepped. Hallis tensed. But Cersei only turned away, leading Myrcella along the path. Over shoulder she added, "Be sure which banner you fly when he arrives." Robb returned to tower, heart thunderous. Letters waited. Ned's newest raven, Lannister coin bribing free riders near the neck. Benjen missing beyond the wall. Bran dreamed of three-eyed crow calling Robb's name. The weight of them pressed. He sealed a single parchment. "I ride at dawn for Moat Cailin with escort. Father, meet me there if war stirs. If Robert lives and calls, I return. If he dies, we decide at the neck of the realm where wolves run free." He packed only armor and map deity. Sir Roderick objected but obeyed. Renly bade farewell with clasp of forearms, promising to guard Robert's chamber. Tyrion simply raised a wine cup on the quay at first light. The ship Wind's Grief slipped from harbor masked among fishing boats. As masts dwindled behind, gulls screamed, and the sunrise burned crimson over ramparts. In that blood-red glow, the Red Keep looked like a maw. Robb touched the stag brooch hidden beneath cloak. Then the jade rose still pinned at collar. Symbols of alliances untested. Seeds not yet sprouted. Ahead lay the next salt marshes and the cold arms of home. Behind, a city that had tasted his kindness, yet might soon thirst for his blood. At midday the wind freshened. Robb stood near prow, hair whipping. He thought of Jon riding south along the Gif's ice-rimmed trails with word of undead. Thought of Sansa embroidering in some quiet Winterfell chamber. Thought of Bran gazing through tower archways at ravens crossing snow. Then he remembered Robert, big, laughing, dying, and wondered if any king could stem the tide now. One thing only felt certain. Winter's talons stretched beyond mere weather. They clutched hearts, crowns, and the fragile threads that stitched realm to realm. And a young wolf sailing for home carried in his breast both spark and storm, for pack and for promise, as wheels of war began to turn with the slow, dreadful certainty of ice grinding mountain.